Hello, everyone. My name is Mythos,
And I'm Psychos.
and welcome to Wicked Anthology. Heyo!
What's up?
Did you miss us? I hope you didn't.
Nobody missed us.
No one missed us. We've been gone for a month.
Gosh, I don't even know how to record anymore, I don't think.
This is like the fourth time we've said that, and I'm so sorry, guys, that we keep like actually vanishing. But to be fair, this last month, so just to give you guys an idea, you guys are hearing this on what, June 7th?
This comes out June 7th.
It's June 4th. We have taken off the last month for a few different reasons. We didn't just like decide to leave on purpose.
No, I'm gonna be 1,000% honest.
Both of us are on the spectrum, and change is hard.
Yeah.
Change
Trange.
is hard. Happy Pride.
Oh my
Speaking of
god.
trange.
Trange.
Trans change.
I hate
Happy
that.
Pride to all the fellow gays, theys, neo babes. I think that's everyone.
I think so. I have to pull up my notes. Hold on, I forgot about that. But like honestly, after
been a
everything
wild
with
month.
Amityville, and I'm gonna be 1,000% honest, Amish.
Amish.
I wasn't super thrilled with how I did Amityville, and like Andrea,
Really?
I
I liked it.
you did awesome. I felt like I did awful.
You did great.
But like I felt like I did a return to form with Andrea, but with all the stress that came with the Amityville like episode, dealing with that,
Yeah.
that like kind of pushed me off the deep end, and I was like, I think I need a break.
Yeah, you came to me and you were like, "Can we take a break?" And I was like, "Honestly, we don't have any brand deals. We're still like a super small podcast, if you can fucking believe that." Shocker.
Really?
Amazing.
No idea.
And so I was like, "We have the time right now. We can take a break." But it really just has been like a really stressful month for both of us. Honestly, it's been wild, I'll tell you guys. I don't handle change very well, and I had a lot of change happen this month. I changed jobs, which was a shit show, I'll say, of a situation. I mean, I hesitate to speak on it because like I really hope the old owners are not listening to the podcast, but I left for personal reasons, for my health and the health of the people around me. Things were just getting a little inappropriate and a little illegal. Yeah, so basically I was just having a not so great situation with my managers and some stuff, and they just weren't treating their employees correctly, and a lot of people are feeling that way. I just kind of was the first person to be like, yeah, fuck this. But I got a job somewhere that I really like, somewhere that I have a consistent schedule, because before I was completely on call, which was nice, but if Psychos and I wanted to do anything, it was just kind of like a, oh, well, we could do it, or I could have to go to work for 8 hours, and that could kind of get sprung on me literally last minute whenever I could be chilling at home, whatever, and then suddenly I have to be at work for 8 hours, and didn't really help my mental health. So I found a new job, very excitingly going into my bachelor's degree this next fall semester, was approved to be a lab assistant for my professor. I was her only choice for it, which I feel really honored for, and going into my full degree, and figuring out what university I want to transfer to, and meeting some really cool people in my field just by proxy. So lots of transitional stuff, but I don't handle transition well at all. So this month also ended up being a month where like everything was just like uprooted. But Yeah, so that we just took a month off. I'm really sorry that we just kind of like did it unannounced, but it's not something we plan on doing consistently. I think we've taken a few breaks over the last year just for a week or for 2 weeks or for a month. But it's a very we started this podcast, and since it started we've been in a lot of transitional periods. I think probably moving towards something that's a lot more beneficial for us as people, and this podcast is going to be transitioning with us and moving and growing with us. So
Mhm.
I'm very excited for what comes in the future, but this month was a really, I think probably one of the biggest transition we've had in about like a year and a half, 2 years, I'd say.
Yeah, this one is massive, and, like, a second thing was, like, we but at the beginning of the month, we could kind of, like, feel something coming, like,
Yeah.
like, it's not that we were, like, a psychic, it's like everything started to get more tense, we started to get more stressed, and we wanted like, from the get-go, we always told ourselves that the second that stops becoming fun and starts becoming more like a job, we were gonna take a break and reevaluate,
Yeah.
and thankfully, we're still here.
Yeah, and it wasn't like this isn't fun. This is very fun for us, but I think we started the podcast with an idea of what we were going to do, and I think we've actually discovered once we actually started having to sit down and really commit the time to the research, we've discovered that we want to talk about things a little bit different than what we thought about. I'm actually covering something today that I said I would never do, which is a ghost adjacent story.
I'm so excited, actually. I'm so hype.
Um, it's not super intense. It's just a little starter. Sorry, my expo markers are upside down. Just a little starter to like get a little taste of what I would feel if I were to do this genre more often, but it's not something that I plan on doing a lot, so, you know. But yeah, also I was having a little bit of health issues in the last like week and a half. I've gotten so much stronger. My legs aren't as fucked up as they usually are. You're disabled. I'm just stupid. I did injure myself at work today though. It was an accident. It was not a major injury. I have these times where if I overwork my muscles, my nerves will just shoot off in my arm. It'll like start from a point and it'll just branch out really quickly, and it really does startle me. But everyone made sure I was okay. I told them I was fine, so we're good. Work's having a barbecue tomorrow, and I'm off tomorrow, so I'm a little salty about that. And tomorrow is my last lab for classes. We're doing a murder mystery, so I'm very excited about that. We get to look at the different trauma that a skeleton receives, and then based off that information, we're gonna try to decide how they died. We're gonna decide roughly the age range of the person, the gender if we or the sex if we can. She made it very clear sex and gender are different. They are. The sex of the skeleton.
I was muted.
You were muted the whole time?
Not the whole time, but I don't know how long I was muted.
Amazing. And we're trying, guys.
I told you, we forgot how to do
Uh
this. Every time we take an extended break from the podcast, we
we literally
legitimately
forget what we're doing.
and I know we're not the only ones because I was listening to a podcast earlier.
I haven't listened to podcasts since we've
I
started.
don't listen to them much. It's weird because I know they do like the shorter form and they leave out like details I wouldn't necessarily have looked out. Like one of the episodes I listened to today covered Knocker Satanicus, but they did it in like a 20 to 30-minute time
How the
frame
fuck do you cover that in 20 to 30 minutes?
because they focused solely on Mark Kilroy.
Oh,
They focused on the white dude.
of course.
But they did bring in like some of Adolfo's like childhood, but they mentioned that he didn't get into it until he was like 14 because his mom married somebody who was into Palomayombe, but he
Isn't
was,
that not correct?
according to the book I read now, um there are a lot of sources and stuff out there, so I have no idea what sources they used
Yeah.
because there's a lot of misinformation in general when it comes to cases, but I was like looking at that and I'm like, wow, like I understand that they need to get this down in like a nice, neat, compact thing, but I don't think I ever could do that. I think I would actually pull out my hair to do that. And like I'm not saying it's a bad thing because it makes it a lot more palatable for people who might not be able to handle like the details,
But based on our analytics, there are people who definitely are okay with the multi-parter series.
which
So,
I might I'm thinking about doing one soon, not too soon, but like maybe around Thanksgiving. I'm
uh-huh.
looking at doing like a family annihilator, like a big family annihilator.
Yeah, my story today, I literally discovered existed yesterday. I was driving back from classes. Actually, no, JK, we were driving back from Joanne's because someone decided to
Code
drag me
Orange.
to Joann's because they have their Halloween stuff out right now.
It's Halloween and Pride, and I'm here for it. Leave
Yeah,
me the
they
fuck
had the
alone.
Eclipse thing, by the way, the Eclipse, collection at Joann's is currently on sale for 40% off,
I
but I didn't buy
know.
anything, and we got food. Then on the way back, we were driving on the highway, and next to us, this U-Haul pulls up, and it has this image on it, and I'm like, "What the fuck is that?" And I don't know if you guys have seen, like, a U-Haul before. I don't know if U-Hauls existed in every country. Well, hang on.
I
So for anyone who doesn't know what a U-Haul is, 'cause I don't know if they're just local to the US or
They
not.
could be just local to the US.
A
That's fair.
U-Haul is basically a big box truck that you can rent to help you move your stuff. So instead of having a service come pack up everything for you. You basically rent a vehicle, and U-Hauls, they have different versions of them. So they have like U-Haul cars, they have trucks, they have just the like trailers that you can hook on. They have like open top trailers and closed trailers, but the most typical one that you're going to see is a box truck. And that one, typically on the sides of them, they have images from each state or like things from each state. Like I'm sure there's a Mothman one somewhere, but they have different things from each state, or I guess Providence too, because my story today is in Canada. But they'll have different stories about it. So anyway, I pulled up next to this U-Haul, and it had this image on it, and I was like, that looks cool. And then I saw the title on the top of it, and then it'll give you a little description of what it is in the bottom of it. I think it's for kids to read while they're driving past a U-Haul. But so I saw it, and I looked at Psychos, and I was like, write that down. So I
Yeah,
got
write
home
that
and I
down. Write that
researched it. So
down.
the story that I'm doing today actually doesn't have a lot of information about it, but it will give us the ability to kind of discuss, I think, a little bit more some stuff. And I'm resisting the urge to just start doing a series on sunken ships. Because I'm doing a sunken ship, sorry. I'm like spoiling it all. But I also really want to do an episode on the Titan because I think it's the dumbest thing ever. Like,
I
look, I understand that like people died, but I really only feel bad about like two people dying. The kid and Mr. Titanic. I don't know what his name is. I've just been calling him Mr. Titanic. I don't know if that's his actual name. I think that's just a me name.
that's like that's I think he was known by that in the community. I don't think I don't remember his name was like Jacques something. He was French. But I
Jacques.
if you want to, we can do like a joint thing and I can like cover like Ocean Gate itself and like how they're kind of sus with their
I could probably talk about the actual dive, and because I would love to. I'd probably talk about the dive, and I would probably also talk about, because I think people don't understand the scale of how deep the Titanic is, but I also don't think people understand the how they just kind of like blipped out of existence, because they
which
really
is
did just blip out of
it
existence.
was terrifying. Like honestly, like thinking about it, like it genuinely sound like sends like shivers down my spine because it's like I can't imagine and it's such a terrifying way for us to think about it, but in reality they probably didn't even realize something was wrong.
They probably didn't. The thing that, well, actually, unfortunately, based off of what I think is commonly believed, they actually were very aware they're going to die for about a minute. Do you not know that?
Oh fuck that.
So, small side
I'm
tangent here.
sorry.
Side tangent here. So we know that when the Titan went down, they were getting alarm signals sent back up saying, "Hey, there's a breach in the outer shell of the Titan," basically, right? And what
Mhm.
you've heard is that they just kind of had the pressure change and then they immediately crushed, right?
Mhm.
That's not entirely what would have happened. So there's two theories. One theory is that they did just were sinking and then they just blipped. The other theory, which does kind of make a lot of sense, at least to me. So once you hit a certain depth in the ocean, your buoyancy does not count. Like you being an air filled thing doesn't count anymore because the actual water pressure that's pushing down on you from the outside kind of counteracts the buoyancy that you have. So it's not going to be like when you take a cup and you push it into the water and you let it go and it shoots out of the water.
It hits
It's
you in
not
the
going to have
face.
that effect. But we're talking like deep. Like they weren't too far off from the Titanic when they died. So what is believed happened in the second theory is that the ship was pill shaped, right?
Yeah.
Which means it was actually going down in a way that isn't really conducive for like you can think of it as friction, but like the way that things move, like sharks don't sink down to the ocean. It's a lot of surface area for the water to hit. So if you're going to move downwards, you would point, with the narrowest side down, right?
Mhm.
So what's believed happened, I'll use this as an example. I have a thing of tennis balls on my desk. Don't ask why. So if this is the Titan, right, and it's sinking like this, right? They're going down, they're sitting up in the thing, right? We've even
Mhm.
got some little guys rolling around in here. Well, the tennis balls are actually a perfect example of this because as the Titan is going down, it's going to lose power. It's going to lose the ability to control itself because they actually have propellers on each side that are keeping it upright, right?
Mhm.
Well, if you lose that propulsion, you're going to start sinking like this. You're going to start sinking narrow side down. So what happens to the people that are sitting inside of the Titan? They all fall to one side because gravity is still a thing underwater. So all 5 people, that porthole,
Mhm.
they were all collapsed in on each other on that porthole, shooting straight down into the ocean for about, I think it was 90 seconds.
That's an eternity if you don't
So for about a
have
minute and a
anything.
half, in theory, if this is correct, for about a minute and a half, they were sinking like this really quickly, right?
Mhm.
And then the pressure of them going so fast downwards killed them. They imploded. Woo! It imploded. But for about a minute and a half, theoretically, they would have been free falling downwards into the ocean because they were actually ascending. They were trying to ascend. They couldn't ascend. That was the problem. So they were actually trying to ascend when they died. And according to the logs that aren't 100% factually checked yet, but just based off of that information.
Yeah.
But they would have had red lights flashing and they would have had alarms going on for about a minute and a half. And they would have known something was wrong. And at that point, I think when you're falling downwards, you're that way. I think they knew they were going to die.
Jesus.
Which is really heartbreaking because I think the son. Now, this isn't confirmed because the aunt said this, but the family said this isn't the case. But the son of one of the guys that went actually didn't want to go, apparently. But he also brought a Rubik's Cube with him. So probably for anxiety reasons, but he didn't want to go on the Titan. I think he was
Yeah.
kind of forced to go, and now he is no longer here. So, but
It's just
the
heartbreaking.
mother of that kid came out and said that that's not true. So we
Mm.
don't actually know if that's true or not, but I do think that there was like I think it was the same not couple, but the same 2 people, the son and the father. They were actually they almost missed the Titan.
Yeah.
They almost missed the boat. Which like terrible luck.
And then of
But
course
I
there's
hate the guy that made the Titan. I hate that motherfucker. What's his name?
oh god.
I forgot his name. I hate that motherfucker.
Stockton Rush.
Stockton Rush. Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
I
This
can say it. He's dead.
oh my god.
Fuck that guy. Someone make
Also
a list of all the people that I say fuck you to. Good night to everyone except.
I know there's also that one person who's planning on going down soon to prove that it's safe.
Oh my god. And the thing is, here's the thing. Going down that deep is not dangerous. I mean, it's not safe, but it's not dangerous. The problem is that the Titan was made out of a material that does not handle repeated stress very well.
It's also the wrong shape for dives of that depth. A lot of time
You're going to have a lot of circular
like
shaped
the spherical
subs.
is like the spherical shape of the subs that are supposed to withstand that pressure are shaped like that so that way everything can handle it evenly.
Yeah.
If you have like that oblong pill-like shape,
You're going to get a lot of pressure along the middle end of that. Also, it had that weird tail thing on the end of it that wasn't really necessary. I think they probably put it on there for like not aerodynamics, but like hydrodynamics. But like it didn't it didn't do anything. It just made it look stupid.
yeah, but
Anyway.
so and there are some people who are joining me in hell and hoping for Titan Part 2, but that's just me.
My god, did you see? I know you saw it. The funniest thing,
the graph.
yes, the funniest thing
I feel awful
funniest
laughing
thing
about
I think
this.
I've ever seen in my life is this graph, and it's it's Titanic deaths over time, and it like shoots up. It's like a flat line, and then it shoots up like 1912,
Yeah.
and then it goes back down, and there's this tiny little blip in 2023.
It was awful. But Jesus, it's bad. It's really bad, but, like,
It's
I think
so
it's
fucked up.
so funny.
But it's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like those memes that came out,
Or
the ones where
choice.
it's like they felt like they
They fell asleep and then
they
they woke
woke
up
up
on
on
the
the Titanic.
Titanic. Or, like, the one that was, like, the ghosts dancing on the ship, and then, like, it's, like, classical music, and then
Yeah.
you hear, like, Cardi B going by as, like, Titan
Titan
time.
goes by the
Yeah.
window. That one was funny, but then also all of the ones where it's like the image of them inside of the ship or whatever, and then like inside of the Titan, and then they just get the little controller disconnected Xbox notification.
My favorite meme was whenever it was the Titan, like, graphic interposed, like, over, like, a Mario game, and then, like, it said
Controller
"Control disconnected,"
disconnected.
and then it started, like, swaying back and forth as it fell, like like, I I am going to hell for laughing at
I
those, but
loved
those
also the compilations of the different types of TikToks that were going out where people were like, "Oh my god, guys, they only have 7 hours of oxygen left." And then it would scroll like one video down and it's like some fucked up meme of like
only 7
only
hours.
7 hours, guys.
I think it's because a lot of these people, like, they are people.
Or those memes that were like me if like Megan the Stallion was on the Titan and it's like some person diving into the ocean.
Yeah.
And the person that was like, I would have just brought a plant with
Oh
me.
god, that was funny. No,
Oh
I
my
think a
god.
lot of it is these men, a good majority of
We're
them,
like
billionaires. They
billionaires.
had stupid amounts of money, so it was a very you got to see the very eat the rich mentality that a lot of people have.
Yeah, I don't think people real I think the Titan really showed people like that like because everyone in the news was like, "Oh my god, these poor people." And like everyone in our generation and younger was like, "Fuck those guys." And I think that was really eye-opening for the media to be like, because here's the thing, you can't research this article and not have seen these memes. So everyone in the news studio 100% knew that everyone on TikTok was making fun of these fucking billionaires and they couldn't say anything about it.
No.
Like it's so funny to me. I really think that people don't realize how little we give a shit about people who have a bunch of money
No,
until
once
their
you
lives are in danger and we're just like, "Okay, die." Like
like, no, I am being for real. Like, I saw this tweet the other day and I was like, "No, that's accurate." It's somebody believes that once you hit $1 billion, you get like a medallion or like a medal that says congratulations for on beating capitalism, and then every dollar you make after that 999 millionth dollar goes into funding like social like social stuff, like getting the
like what do
roads
you
fixed.
do
And
with that much
I
money?
don't know, cuz like anybody who can casually drop $250,000 to go down into the ocean and see the Titanic. Now, don't get me
And that's
wrong.
not even that the thing is, and this is what's so crazy to me, is a like that's basically the equivalent of someone dropping how much like
That's how
a
much it costs to
that's
buy
like a house,
a
like a
really
shitty
shitty house
house.
too.
Yeah.
It's not even a good
So
house.
imagine spending half of what your house costs on like a ticket to a boat ride. Like that's the equivalent of the stupid amount of money that they're spending on this. I think there's a girl, she's on TikTok. I don't know her name, but she's always talking about finances, but in a bad girl like a bad bitch mentality.
Oh my
And she
god, I
always
love
has the
her.
accent. She's like walking down the streets of New York and she's got like the pink like bimbo outfits, but I love her.
No, she's a bimbo. She fully is like,
No, but she explains it in a way that just makes so much sense.
yeah.
But she was talking, she was like breaking it down. She was like, "This is how much this ticket costs for a billionaire," and breaking it down by like what her budget would be. It was like barely a Starbucks drink for like someone who's making like bare minimum wage. Like a Starbucks drink level of like money was spent on like which like I mean, if a Starbucks drink can kill you, then it can kill you. But like it was very interesting. But I also saw a tweet because I'm on a different side of the internet, I think, than you are, given the TikToks that you forced me to watch at the end of the night that takes 3 hours.
The only reason why
Takes
takes
3
3
hours
hours
because we
because
don't sit there and watch it for a couple days. I understand that, okay, but just listen. I saw a tweet that was like, and I understand it's not Twitter anymore, it's X. I don't give a shit.
you don't dead name anyone unless it's Twitter. Then keep
I only dead
dead
named Twitter.
naming Twitter.
Yeah. But on Twitter it was like, "Oh, you know, if a monkey hoarded all of the bananas, then they would research the monkey because something's wrong with it. But when humans do it, it's okay." Because it's true.
That
If a monkey
is
were to if we were to research probably chimpanzees. If we were to research chimpanzees and discover, which I don't think they eat bananas, but if we were to research chimpanzees and discover that one of them was hoarding all the food for itself, that would be a very, very odd thing for chimpanzees to do. But it's okay for humans to do, which is very interesting way to put it into perspective because humans are closely related to chimps, like very closely related to chimps. I think they're our most common ancestor. If it's not gorillas, I think it's chimps. I think chimps are our most closely related ape ancestor. So the fact that chimpanzees are so not that, I think is very interesting.
I think so too.
Anyway,
Well,
doodly-doo. So that's our ramblings. I'm so sorry.
Alrighty. I'm gonna be 1,000% honest with you guys. I haven't looked at these notes in like a month.
Yeah, Psychos did the smart thing and like started like hoarding notes to be able to do, and I'm still behind. I'm gonna be so honest. I love Psychos very much, but 9 times out of 10,
Oh
if
no.
we ever like have issues, it's probably my fault. And that's
No.
it's 100% because I'm just very busy. I'm the busiest out of the two of us. Even when I'm changing jobs, I'm still busy. I'm doing a lot of things at once. And so there's a lot of times where Psychos will come to me and be like, "Oh, like, can we do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's okay." And I'll pretend that like it's like, "Oh, it's fine, it's whatever." But honestly, I'm sitting here like, "Thank fuck," because I've got too much shit to do. So, like, I barely sleep at this point, and I don't handle change very well. So I've been crying a lot over the last few weeks. So it's really sad to like leave my job, and I love my new job, and I love my coworkers at my new job, but it was really sad to leave my old job. But unfortunately, I couldn't support shady business practices.
Honestly, nobody should have to.
Facts.
Okay. So
Psychos can't say anything bad because they still work there. It'll go on the Patreon.
yeah.
Speaking of which, we have our Patreon now, which is the worst time to mention it. Don't even worry about looking at the Patreon for like another month because we're still trying to like get it all sorted out. But we do have a Patreon. It is up. We do have things going on there like bonus content, stuff like that. That we're actually, now that my finals are next week and I'll have the summer to not have to worry about researching anything obsessively outside of the podcast. We can actually get a backlog going because we actually have to vacation in December. So
We physically have to.
we physically have to have a backlog of at least 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So
Alrighty. So
you're going first.
yeah, because mine is dark.
Mine is not, but I put a little photo in for anyone who sees the notes on Patreon. I have a little photo in mine.
I don't put photos in mine.
I put little Easter eggs and memes and stuff in mine.
I don't. I should probably.
Because I'm gonna post them. So
I mean, I'm gonna post mine
someone
too.
can take them and use them for their notes for an essay.
Yeah, I mean, fair.
Yeah,
We've compiled the information. Why not?
resources.
Woo! All right. I mean, I did use podcast episodes as sources for my.
I don't use podcast episodes for my sources. I actually was going to do a different story when I came back, and then I listened to a podcast of someone that like we don't like. We watch her content, but like I don't like her.
Like, it's not that we like.
She's a bad person.
She's a bad person, but
She uses victims.
she does. But she also does kind of good work. So we're supporting.
She does kind of good work, but like
We're
also
supporting the
reads
causes.
with the Wikipedia verbatim.
Yeah, we're supporting the causes that she's presenting. We don't support her.
Yeah. So, but I found out that she had like just recently done an episode on this thing, and I was like, well, fuck, now I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Like, I was so angry, and that's the first time I've ever looked up if another podcast had done an episode on this person just to see what angle they took with it. They were like, oh, we're conflicted about how we feel about this person. I'm like, really? Because I hate this bitch.
Like, because here's the thing. People are multifaceted. Somebody can do something great and amazing and still be an awful person.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like people are people.
Yeah, I think being in the science community gave me a different view on it. Anyway,
I like I mentioned earlier, I haven't looked at these notes in over a month. It's gonna be like brand new information to me. So if you hear me
Me
like
too.
audibly reacting to something that I wrote down,
You're just like,
wait a minute.
gasp. Can you believe this, Mythos? No, I can't.
This shit is real. Okay, so what would you do
Oh God.
if there was a
The child
child
right
in front of you? No, dead ass.
If there was a child in front of me right now, I'd kick it. It's probably a ghost. There's no children in this house.
Okay, and that's the only thing that we can laugh at for my entire case. I'm being so for real. This
Was it
case
the actual
is
question you were gonna ask
fucking
me?
dark. No, I was gonna
Oh.
ask, what would you do if we had a kid and the kid unfortunately passed away, but one of the kid's neighborhood's friends decided to come on over and ask to see the kid that we had that's no longer with us? And whenever you try to explain, like, oh, unfortunately, they're not with us anymore, how would you react if that child responded, "Oh, I know. I wanted to see him in his coffin."
Where the fuck are your parents? If a kid came up to me and asked to see my dead kid in his coffin, I'd be like, "You're a fucking serial killer," and then I'd kick the kid out of my house. Literally kick the kid.
Okay.
I'm a violent person.
You're not that violent. So, today I'm talking about the case of Mary
Also,
Bell.
why would you think that the ice cream?
That's Bluebell.
Oh. Why would you think that my kid's coffin is at my house?
No idea. I don't know how that works. Today I'm talking about the case of Mary Bell, who
Not the
was
ice cream.
the youngest female serial killer
In Wisconsin.
in England.
Oh. Basically the same thing.
Basically.
I think about England about as often as I think about Wisconsin.
This is the only times that we can really joke about anything
You wanna
that's
bet?
going. No,
You wanna bet?
don't do this
I'll
to
make
me.
it funny.
You're not gonna make this
How long ago did this happen?
in the 1960s.
Ah! I can make fun of it.
Oh.
What's the South Park rule?
No, because they are actual children that are involved in this.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, no, the victims are like very, very young.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll bully the killer.
Yeah. So Mary Flora Bell was born on May 26th, 1957 in Scotswood, which is a neighborhood in Newcastle upon Tyne in England. Now,
Pontine?
upon Tyne.
Pontine.
No, upon Tyne.
A pontine?
Yeah. Newcastle upon Tyne. Like come upon something. I am No, I did another English. I just finished up my notes for another English case that I did that I'm gonna do like in a couple weeks. But Jesus fucking Christ, I am so fucking annoyed with
Stinky.
I'm so fucking
No one's gonna know what that meant unless they saw that tweet go out yesterday.
fucking hell. No, I'm so fucking annoyed because like
Why do English people name their places like this?
no, because it's
England,
not
what are you doing?
No, because it's like you have like the town, you have the village, you have the town, you have like the area, and then you have like a county, and then maybe you have the country or city that it's in. It's so fucking stupid. It's like 3 different names. You have like 3 names for one
I mean,
place.
we have counties, but we don't include it. We do like
No, like for instance,
we do like city and state.
and that's it.
Yeah.
But this is like town. If it's closer to a major city, county, and then like it's that. I'm probably messing it up. And if we do have any listeners in England, I'm so sorry. Your geography pisses me off.
Oh, speaking of
So-
England, what was his name? Maltby, first name. Maltby, first name.
Robert
Robert.
Maltby.
He posted that he's moving to an app called Kara because it's like AI safe for artists.
Ooh,
I saw that come up on Instagram the other day. So I keep up with these people.
good for him.
But yeah, his artwork's really, really popping off. He's doing good.
Good for him. So, geography rant aside, yeah, Mary Flora Bell was born on May 26th, 1957 in Scotswood.
Okay.
So, her mother was named Elizabeth McCricket, and she went by the nickname of Betty. She
Oh,
was
England and your weird, weird names.
She was either 16 or 17 years old when Mary was born. So we don't really
Benwell and Scotswood.
no Scots.
It's a ward of Newcastle upon Tyne.
Yeah, there it is.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I don't understand. Maybe it's just because I am painfully American. Stop.
We only know freedom addresses.
No. Okay. So
Okay, it's on the. I'm looking at a map of England. It's on the northeastern-ish coast,
yeah, it's
above the North York Moors National Park.
oh, I should do the
Um,
Moors murders one day.
I don't know any of these cities nearby, so I can't
I
tell
know it's
you.
fairly close to the Scotland border
It is
because
relatively close
because
to the
of
Scotland border.
something that I'll explain later on. So she was 16 or 17 when Mary was born, but Mary was not Betty's first child. She had an older child whose name is unknown. We don't know who this child was. We don't even know the gender. We know nothing. We just know that Mary had an older sibling.
Okay.
Mary's birth father is also unknown. However, there's a lot of speculation that William, or we'll call him Billy from now on,
Billiam.
because he was known as Billy.
There's a guy at my work called Billiam.
Gosh.
Okay, it's like an hour and 30 minutes south of the nearest Scottish town.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. Imagine being an hour and a half from Scotland. Bitches. Are
you done?
No.
Anyway,
Anyway.
shut the fuck up.
I'm sorry.
I love you.
Assholes.
I haven't gotten through my first bullet point, guys. I'm trying. I'm still on my first fucking bullet point.
Remember that dumbass joke you said at the teriyaki place today?
Which one?
The almond joke.
No, I can't get into that right now.
That'll be for the Patreon episode.
No, I'll do it at the end of the episode if I remember.
Bet.
Okay.
Okay, Mary Bell was born an hour and 30 minutes south of the Scotland border.
Anyway,
her mom was named Betty.
Yes.
Okay.
And her father, her birth father is technically unknown. We don't know who her actual birth father was, but there is kind of speculation that Billy Bell, his first name was William. He decided to go by Billy. I'm trying, guys.
What was his first name?
His first name is Willie, but he went by Billy. Not Willie. Fuck you. William. His name is William, and he went by Billy.
Are you William?
John, making fun of me.
How long is your notes?
6 pages.
How far are we?
We're still on the first bullet point. I haven't even finished the fucking sentence.
We're 45 minutes into this recording.
I know.
Okay, good.
Are you? Fuck. Fucking hell. Okay.
I'm in pain.
Good.
I'm laughing so hard I'm hurting.
Suffer. So anyway, William or Billy Bell, the man that Betty would later on marry, they thought that he could have been Mary's biological father.
Okay.
From the very beginning, though, Mary was a very unwanted child. Reportedly, after she was born and the nurses went to set the baby on Betty's chest, you know how they do to give that
like skin to skin
contact, like for bonding.
Yeah.
Betty demanded that they, quote, take the thing away from me. According to Isa
It's a spider.
Oh my gosh. According to Isa McCricket, who is Betty's sister.
According to who?
Her name was Isa McCricket. McCricket was Betty's
McCricket.
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 Yeah.
That's Scottish. Mick? Is that Irish? Irish is O.
No. Irish is O, and Mick, Mac, I believe is.
Mac.
I could be wrong. Mac. Don't correct me. I don't care.
Don't correct me. I think it's don't quote me. Don't do anything. Shut up.
Don't email me. Sorry, I am very aggressive this episode.
We are losing our minds.
So, when Betty and Billy got married in 1958, Mary ended up taking on Billy's last name, which is Bell. Billy, like Betty, did not want to be a parent and resented Mary just as much as Betty did. Billy was actually a very violent man. He was an alcoholic and an ex-con with an extensive record that included armed robbery.
Me too.
So, Betty was also a sex worker. And she worked all along the United Kingdom, specializing in domination and more often than not working as a dominatrix. She was often gone for days, sometimes weeks at a time, and in addition, she often brought men back to their home. Now, to be clear, Betty being a sex worker has nothing to do with her being an awful abusive mother. That was just her job. Honestly, we need to protect sex workers more because they are actually
In danger a lot more.
they're in danger a lot more, and they were they're I believe it's called the invisible population or something like that, where if they get murdered, nobody really cares.
Yeah.
It's like there are tons of serial killers out who started by killing sex workers, and then whenever they moved on from sex workers, that's whenever they started getting noticed. While the sex workers were dying and being murdered by these serial killers, nobody cared because they were sex workers. So, sex work is valid. Anyway, side tangent over. Throughout Mary's childhood, people noted one of two things. Mary was extraordinarily clumsy, or that Betty was extremely violent to her child. In 1960, Mary fell from a second-floor window with minimal injuries, though Betty's older sister, Catherine, later testified that she witnessed Betty throw Mary from the window. Mary also managed to overdose on Betty's sleeping pills, but she would survive this and be okay. Again, many people suspected that Betty actually force-fed Mary the medication. Or Betty force-fed. Did I say that right?
I don't know.
Betty force-fed Mary.
The medication, yeah.
Yeah. So on another occasion, there was a young woman who was unable to have her own child and was too mentally unstable to have her own, to adopt. But Betty fully walked up to this woman and handed over Mary.
Take her, I don't want her.
Basically. And then Catherine would have to track her down and bring her back home. Despite the clear evidence that Betty did not want this young girl, she refused to let her parents or other family members take Mary in. She didn't want Mary, but she didn't want anybody else to have Mary either. It was a very weird emotional thing. Many people actually suggest that Betty suffered from Munchausen by proxy, thriving off the attention that the misfortune Mary suffered from brought her. Others believe that she just wanted to get rid of the, quote, thing herself. At some point during her childhood, Mary actually suffered injuries to her head brought on by both Betty and Billy, causing damage to her brain. Whether or not this is an illegitimate claim remains to be seen. However, given how many times she was beaten and thrown around by both parents, I do think that's a very strong possibility. And head trauma is especially in childhood, is pretty common.
Yep, that's how I got Tourette's.
Yeah.
I got the shit beat out of me.
Unfortunately.
It gave me character.
No.
I don't recommend beating your kids to give them Tourette's.
I was just advised against it.
I was just thrown in a fridge.
Oh, baby. Okay.
Mythos lore.
Poor baby. By the mid-1960s, Betty would actually go on to involve Mary with her sex work.
How old was she at this time?
She was 5 or 6.
Yikes.
So Mary at this point...
That was me.
Mary at this point was about 5 or 6.
Oh, okay. That's a choice.
I don't care what you want to do with your life and what you do for work.
Don't involve your kids.
But do not ever, and I mean ever, involve your child or children in sex work. No. You are actively...
As a child.
Yes. You are actively putting them in harm's way, and whatever money you make isn't going to be worth the trauma and betrayal you are actively causing your child.
I feel like that's just outside of that, there's she's 5.
She's 5, yes. And I understand that when money's tight, people go to extreme lengths.
I've never considered selling my kid for sex work when money's a little tight.
Do you want to know a very scary statistic? Most sex trafficking, especially child sex trafficking, is not done by strangers.
It's done by the family.
It's done by family.
Yeah, I knew that.
Basically, Betty was trafficking her own child. Initially, she would not involve Mary in the sex acts. She will often just like, in the very beginning, whenever this like, she started just to bring her along.
Mhm.
And obviously, she had no issues with bringing men into the household.
And Billy was okay with this?
Billy was abusive, so we don't know.
Fair enough.
Betty would allegedly give her child to these men later on to sexually abuse, sometimes joining in herself.
Okay, that's disgusting.
Blind
Like, all of it's disgusting, but that's extra gross.
blindfolding Mary or holding her down at points in time.
Mhm.
While I fully believe that this is true, there is no solid evidence, as the only one who's ever spoken about this is Mary. No
Mm.
charges have ever been pressed in relation to these events. And some sources state that this side of the trauma, this side of the abuse, actually started as young as 4.
Jeez.
So I was mistaken earlier.
Jeez.
Because of the trauma she was experiencing at home, Mary experienced extreme mood swings and other violent, unpredictable behaviors that we'll get to in just a moment. She was also wetting the bed constantly, which is one corner
Well,
of the.
yeah, no shit. Isn't that like a symptom of sexual assault as a child?
It's a sign of sexual abuse in children, yes, but it's
And
also
also serial killers.
one corner of the McDonald triad or the dark triad.
The McDonald's triad.
No,
Oh.
the McDonald triad is arson, bedwetting,
And
and
animal killing, right?
animal harm and
Yeah.
like animal abuse. Granted, it's a little, in my opinion, it's a little outdated. It's not super relevant. It's like, oh, all these people seem to have the same characteristics, but if you go like expand it, so many people have like an interest in arson,
Yeah.
or like for instance, people who wet the bed. They could be a serial killer, or they could just be suffering from sexual trauma.
Yeah.
Now, Mary was also extremely violent towards the other children in her neighborhood, as well as her school, Delaville Road Junior School. She would choke several classmates, scream, and try to fight others. At some point, she tried to force sand down a classmate's throat. On another occasion, Mary allegedly put a lit cigarette out on another girl's cheek.
Okay.
Now, due to these actions, many children actually avoided Mary like the plague.
I would
However,
too.
one girl named Norma Bell, there's no relation.
They just happen to have the same last
They
name.
just happen to have the same last name.
That's probably why they were friends.
Yeah. There was there was like no relation, but she kind of latched onto Mary. She was about 13 when Mary, who was 10, became her friend. But according to a classmate, everybody kind of learned to see when Mary was going to fall into like a violent rage. They had to adapt to anticipate her violence, which is fucking terrifying because she's only 10.
Yeah.
And literally the signs were she would literally just go dead-eyed. Like her hands would start shaking and she would just go dead-eyed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you knew that she was gonna be violent. And that's fucking terrifying. She's 10. She's a
Yeah.
child.
Yeah.
Now, on Saturday, May 11th, 1968, Mary and Norma were playing in an area called St. Margaret's Road near an abandoned air raid shelter. They lured a 3-year-old boy up to the
Lured?
Lord.
Lured?
Lord?
God?
No,
Lured.
I pronounce it. I can't say it like that, babe.
Huh.
You're being ableist.
Ableist. There it is.
Yeah, they lured a 3-year-old boy up to the top of the shelter, where one of the girls pushed him off.
Ooh.
The little boy survived, but he ended up with a huge gash on his head, bleeding a good bit. He didn't know who pushed him, but when police interviewed the girls, they stated that they didn't know what happened to the boy. They had stumbled upon him when they were playing and they wanted to make sure that he was all right. That same day, 3 girls told their parents that Mary had attempted to strangle them in the sand pit. The parents immediately went to the police, who interviewed the girls about this incident as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mary denied having anything to do with this, let alone knowing anything about it. But Norma would later confess to witnessing this event.
Mm-hmm.
The police would make a report noting that Mary did have a violent streak, but ultimately let both girls with a warning. Like, let them off with a
Let
warning.
them off.
That would be a mistake.
Yeah.
Martin Brown was a very rambunctious 4-year-old boy. He was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed little boy who was well loved by his older sisters and his parents. As was normal for the time, Martin played all day, every day outside, often only coming home for meals before turning around and running off to go play some more. This was no different on May 25th, 1968, and June Brown, Martin's mother, wasn't super worried until a neighbor had informed her that Martin had been found unconscious in an abandoned home on St. Margaret's Road. When she had arrived, there was a crowd that had formed while a workman named John Hall attempted CPR. Martin Brown was then taken to the hospital, but his death was announced on arrival. Bernard Knight would conduct the autopsy and find no signs of anything really being wrong. Investigations of the house revealed an empty pill bottle and a few pills scattered around. Martin's death was ruled an unfortunate accident, an overdose caused by a 4-year-old's love of candy.
Hmm.
On May 26th, 1968, Mary's 11th birthday, Mary and Norma broke into a nursery in Woodland Crescent. While there, they vandalized the place, making it look like a tornado blew through the building.
Mhm.
On May 27th, 1968, while the police were investigating the break in, they came across a number of handwritten notes. These read, "I murder so that I may come back. We did murder Martin Brown. Fuck off, you bastard. Fuck off, we murder. Watch out, Fanny and faggot. You are mice. Why be cursed? We murdered Martin. Go Brown. You beat. Look out. There are murders about by Fanny. Old faggot, you screws." Now,
These kids just learned what swear words were.
now, I said that as best I could with all of the error, like all the spelling mistakes. I left the
Mhm.
spelling mistakes in. And, like,
Mhm.
these were later dismissed as being a childish and weird prank. Later handwriting analysis revealed that Norma and Mary passed these notes back and forth, writing some words and with the other finishing, like the sentence. The Monday following the murder and the break-in, Mary and Norma went to school. While there, Mary drew a rather interesting picture in her notebook. She actually drew Martin's dead body and how John Hall had discovered his body. The teachers initially didn't think anything of this, as Martin's death had kind of rocked their community. However, it wasn't like it was more secretive as to how he was found and what killed him.
Mhm.
A lot of people knew it was just like an accident, but they didn't realize it was just what kind of accident it was.
Mhm.
On May 29th, Norma and Mary Bell visited June Brown, who was Martin's mom, and asked to see Martin. Now, they had been by every now and then just to check in, but this day they specifically asked to see Martin. Thinking that the girls really didn't understand death and what it entailed, she told the girls that Martin wasn't going to be coming home. Mary then replied, quote, "Oh, I know he's dead. I wanted to see him in his coffin."
The fuck?
End quote. Now, according to some sources, June responded in one of two ways. The first was that she just sent the girls away, upset but not really at the girls, still under the impression that they just really didn't understand what was going on. The other responses that she reportedly had was that she sent them away before collapsing and causing her husband to send to for the doctor.
Mhm.
Now, over the next month, the community remained in mourning over the little boy's death, but since it had been ruled an accident, there wasn't a sense of suspicion, just tragedy.
Mhm.
However, on June 31st, 1968, the body of 3-year-old Brian Howe was discovered at 11:10 p.m. in an area known as the Tin Lizzie. He had been missing since mid-afternoon. He was discovered underneath handfuls of weeds and grass as an attempt to hide the body.
Mhm.
Brian's lips were blue and he was covered in bruises and cuts. A broken pair of scissors were found near his body. When an autopsy was conducted, it was discovered that the cause of death was strangulation. The killer had strangled the boy with one hand while using the other to pinch his nose closed. There were stab wounds caused by scissors on his legs. There were chunks of his hair missing, and his genitals had been partially mutilated. Finally, almost as like an afterthought, an M had been carved into the 3-year-old's stomach.
Jeez.
Given the bruising on the throat, it was believed by investigators that the killer had been another child. And it
Oh, because probably like the hands were so tiny.
In addition, gray and maroon fibers that did not come from the Howe home were discovered on the clothing that Brian had been wearing when he died.
Mhm.
Due to the fact that it was believed that a child had been the one to commit the murders, over 1,200 children were investigated by a team of about 100 detectives. As the investigation progressed, they realized that the death of Martin Brown may have actually been a murder, as strangulation by a child may not have left bruising or any physical evidence, as children don't necessarily have the same strength as an adult would.
Mhm.
They informed the Brown family and reopened the investigation into Martin's death. Two names did repeatedly come up during investigation: Mary and Norma Bell. They were actually the last ones to see Brian Howe alive, and their suspicious behavior after Martin's death certainly wasn't doing them any favors. Mary would actually attend every single press conference and ask questions constantly, which everyone at first kind of dismissed as like the morbid curiosity of like a kid.
Yeah.
But given that, it was kind of like starting to stack up against Mary. On August 1st, Mary and Norma Bell were taken into custody for questioning after a little boy came forward anonymously to report that he had seen the two murder Brian Howe. Sorry, I forgot to write down Brian's name in this section. During this initial interview, both girls gave contradictory statements, but admitted they had played with Brian the day of the murder. On the 2nd of August, they were taken into custody for further questioning, where Mary claimed to have seen an older boy beating Brian. However, this boy was not in town the day of the murder, at all. He was actually out of town with his family.
Mhm.
Now, on August 4th, 1968, Norma's parents called police, informing them that Norma wanted to make a confession. She initially told police that Mary had killed Brian alone and had shown her afterwards. Mary was then visited at her home the next morning by police and was very aggressive towards police with her father, Billy. However, later that day, Norma was questioned further by police, where she revealed she was present at the murder of Brian Howe. She revealed that Mary had told the boy that he had a sore throat and to lay down so she could massage it for him. He did, and she began to strangle him, but then she looked up at Norma and said her hands had gotten tired, but Norma ran away.
Mhm.
Furthermore, the investigation uncovered the fibers that were found in Brian's clothing also appeared to be found on Mary and Norma's clothing, implying that it came from their clothing that they were wearing that day.
Mhm.
On August 7th, 1968, Mary and Norma Bell were officially arrested and brought in. Mary at this point was allegedly cooperative with police, while Norma promised revenge against police for arresting her.
Mhm.
After her arrest, Mary stated that it was Norma who had killed Brian and that she was a bystander, too afraid not to go along with what was happening. She also confessed to the break-in at the nursery, as well as leaving the notes and wreckage as a, quote, prank. After their arrest and before the trials could start, they had to undergo a psychological evaluation. Which, let's be honest, psychological evaluations at the time are not very good, and they're still not great. So, just setting that out there. However, Norma was revealed to have an intellectual disorder, making her very submissive and emotional. Her mental age was also measured to be about 8 or 9 years old instead of her physical age at 13.
Mhm.
Mary was diagnosed with a psychopathic personality disorder, which can be triggered by abuse early in childhood, but is usually displayed as, quote, impaired empathy and remorse, and bold, disinhibited, and egocentric traits masked by superficial charm and the outward presence of apparent normality.
Mhm.
On December 5th, 1968, the trial began, with the judge immediately waiving the right to anonymity due to the severity of the crimes, which is how we know the girls' real names, real ages, and the faces at the time of their trials.
Mhm.
Because usually children,
They don't let them be
yeah,
visible to the public like that.
even child offenders are usually protected, but
But I guess with how bad the crime was.
because it was a murder, they were like, no. Norma and Mary threw the blame back and forth in the trial, but ultimately, that hot potato decided to land in Mary's hands. So, on December 17th, 1968, the charges were actually reduced from murder to manslaughter. Norma was cleared of all charges. Her reaction literally including, she literally was clapping and laughing in the courtroom after this.
Mhm.
Mary Bell, on the other hand, was charged with both boys' deaths and sentenced to be imprisoned at Her Majesty's pleasure. A fancy phrase that basically means we don't know how long we're going to put you in for,
But you're in.
but we're just not going to tell you how long you're serving. So you're in, but Could be a couple years, could be for life. We don't know. We'll see.
Whenever we feel like it, basically.
Yes. Mary, her mother, and grandmother all broke down sobbing when they received the verdict in the sentence. She was 11 years and 6 months old, England's youngest female killer, a record that has yet to be broken as of this recording.
I mean, good. that hasn't been broken yet.
Yeah, she's not the England's youngest murderer because she was convicted for manslaughter, not murder charges.
Oh.
Yeah, technicalities.
Love that.
Mary Bell actually went from Durham, where the trial was held, to South Norwood before ending up at the Red Bank Secure Unit in Merseyside in 1969, which is an institution for young offenders. She was the only girl out of the 24 inmates that resided there. Later in life, she claimed that 13 years old, a staff member and other inmates began to sexually assault her. When Mary Bell was 16 in November of 1973, she was transferred to the HM Royal Style in Cheshire, specifically to a more secure unit where she was extremely unhappy. She attempted to apply for parole unsuccessfully many times while she was here. She was then transferred to Moor Court Open Prison at the age of 19 in June of 1976. Here, she began to take courses during the day so that way she could start learning things, you know? However, in September of 1977, Mary Bell and another prisoner named Annette Priest escaped and went on the run. This escape made headlines and searches immediately began. Mary started going by Mary Robinson, and Annette kept her name the same for some reason.
A choice.
These two spent several days hitting the tourist spots and staying with two young men. She was arrested in the home of one of the men, a man named Clint Shirtcliffe, on September 13th, 1977. She was discovered with bleach blonde hair in an attempt to disguise herself. Priest was discovered days later. So, their punishment for running away for like a couple weeks, they lost their privileges for 28 days. In June of 1979, at the age of 22, Mary Bell was transferred to HM Prison, Askham Grange, to prepare for her release. 5 months later, she began to work outside of the prison as a secretary and a waitress, but she was supervised.
So she's still technically in prison.
She's still technically in prison, but she's doing like a work release program at this point. Now, Mary Bell was actually released in May of 1980. She was 23 years old. She had spent almost 11 and a half years in prison. Upon her release, Mary Bell was granted a new name and began to live in anonymity. She gave birth to a daughter on May 25th, 1984. The anonymity order would extend to the daughter until she turned 18, and she was Mary's only child. However, we know that she knew nothing of her mother's crimes until reporters had tracked them down in 1998.
Jesus.
Revealing both their identities and forcing them to move yet again.
Jesus.
They had actually been moving every 1 to 2 years to prevent the media from like figuring out who they were and catching up to them. However, due to this media circus, Mary Bell actually sued for and won the right to keep her anonymity and that of her daughters for life in 2003. This is also extended to Mary Bell's granddaughter, who was born in January of 2009. As of this recording, we don't know where she is or how she is doing. That being said, she did something that I'm a little peeved about, because when all of this media circus had been going on, she actually also sold the rights to her story.
What the fuck?
So she got money.
Immediate red flag.
She got money from her
being
story.
a murderer is a red flag, but selling the rights to your story is an immediate red flag.
Like, she got money from her story. Like, granted, but she also took responsibility. She's like, I was young when this happened. I should not have done it. I'm sorry. Like, she apologized and took responsibility for it, which is a lot more than we can say for a lot of people. However, she was also 10 and 11 years old when she killed 2 toddlers.
Yeah.
So I think that what happened with Mary was more of I really do think it was product of nurture, not nature.
Yeah.
I don't think, because as of right now, we have no idea, but I don't think Mary's actually committed any other offenses since her release. So obviously we wouldn't know because she's anonymous, but I just don't think she did. 'Cause I feel like even if she was anonymous, people would kinda figure it out. Because I mean, obviously, they figured out where she was, they figured out she had a kid,
Yeah.
so I don't think you can really stay.
Yeah, unless you're, like, in a certain program for, like unless they're, like, in the witness protection program, like, anonymity is just, like, not a thing.
Yeah. So there's that. Um, but we do know that she had a granddaughter who was born in January of 2009, so maybe it's not, like, too anonymous.
Yeah.
That's my case.
Hated that.
I know. I'm sorry.
No, it's
I
okay.
should have dropped trigger warnings, and I
It's okay.
realized I did not, and I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I'll kill you later for it.
But, like, I really do think that her case was more of a nurture instead of a nature thing. I really don't think that had she been in a home where she was loved and cared for, like, I'm going to say this now,
Mhm.
that area, that neighborhood,
Yeah.
it was right after, like, the Industrial Revolution, it was right after World War II. It's very run down, and everybody in that neighborhood was poor as poor could be,
Yeah.
but everybody as, like, a community supported each other. I think that had Mary had different parents, I think she would have been okay.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's probably like a thing with a lot of cases where it's like it's not necessarily that they were bad people, but they had issues that weren't made any better by the people that they were around.
Yeah. Like, one of the investigators, not investigators, but somebody who had done research on the case, like, much more in depth than I did, he mentioned that her saying to Brian, "You have a sore throat, here, let me massage it for you," was something that she had learned from her mother's clients, that
Yeah,
the
cuz that I
massages.
remember when you said that, like I'm like in my mind I'm like that's a weird thing for like a kid to say. Like
Right.
that's a weird phrasing for a kid to say. That sounds like something that they've heard from somewhere else.
Not, and then the, genital mutilation was also
Yeah, like a kid wouldn't know.
how to do any of that,
Yeah,
or,
a
like,
kid wouldn't know that wouldn't be something that a kid would do unless a kid
had that
had that
trauma.
trauma. Yeah, 'cause that's a very specific thing that I think we don't see unless there's like a sexual trauma or something involved.
Yeah. So, I also just feel awful for Brian and, Martin's parents. Like, they were, like, from what I saw of these 2 little boys, they were, like, they literally look like baby angels. Like, they were
Oh,
so fucking cute, and it breaks my heart, but, like, they were.
it has to be such a weird moral dilemma to like be upset obviously at like your kid's killer, but then for your kid's killer to also be like a child. Like that has to be like it's easy to be angry at an adult because like it's an adult, they know better. But like it has to be really difficult to be angry with a child for doing something because you're like, did you know? Did you not know? Like that level of just like confliction, I think.
And honestly, the fact that we know nothing about Mary's older sibling, because she had an older sibling. We don't know her name, we don't, or their name, we don't know anything about them. We don't know whether or not they went down a very similar path. We have no idea.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that children of, abusive parents or people who suffer abuse are gonna go on to abuse other people. That's actually a very harmful and dangerous stereotype. However, there is a point to be made that if somebody does not get help after a trauma, they are slightly, like, it's a very, very small percentage more likely to commit those crimes onto other people because that's all that they really know. Again, I need to express, like, hammer home how tiny that percentage is.
Mhm.
It's a very small percentile because a lot of people will go through trauma and be like, wow, I never want anybody else to experience what I just experienced.
Yeah.
But then there are some people who are like, "Oh, this is normal." Again, very, very tiny percentile, but it's heartbreaking, really. It's one of those things where, like, you can be angry at this person for doing these things. I personally don't think she should have profited off of her crime, but again, she was also 10 and 11 years old when she committed it.
Yeah.
I don't think she realized that that's not. I think even
I
at.
think there's a probably a degree of separation in her mind of like this is something that I did like 10 years ago and she probably doesn't feel like it's close enough that it's something that she like feels remorseful enough to be like I can't sell my story. Like, I think because there's such a time difference, it's probably just, like, she didn't even care.
We also don't know her motives for it.
Yeah, facts.
We don't know if it was
I mean, no
solely
one's gonna hire her, so
I mean I mean, people did.
eh.
She had jobs until she got, like, revealed,
Mhm.
exposed. But, like, that's the thing. We have no idea if she did it as a way to bring in money for the family. We have no idea if she did it as a way to be like, "Hey,"
Fuck you.
not even a "fuck you." It's like my brain is, like, going to, "Well, maybe I could be, like, a warning to people." Like, we have no idea if she was doing it for altruistic reasons. We have no idea.
Yeah, I see your point.
And I'm not, like, trying to defend this woman. Let me make that very clear.
But the whole point of this podcast is to discuss the moral dilemma stickiness, because there's some moral dilemmas in most things.
There's a very big moral dilemma here. There's, like, she is a very young child. Like,
And to be held accountable, I think, for the things that you do when you're that young, because at a certain point, I think when you're a kid, there's a level of not forgiveness, but there's a level of understanding that whatever you're doing at a certain age, like you just like have not become aware as like a person. And so there's a certain point where I think when you're so young, you don't even realize it because you're just a copycat of what the environment is around you. I don't think that you really gain autonomy as a person until way older in life. So I think that obviously holding a kid accountable for committing murder, like, yeah, obviously, but I think there's a level of like, well, she's 11. Can you really can not believe, but can you really expect an 11-year-old to have the ability to sit down and premeditate a murder like that? Like, especially if they were in a normal environment, I don't think that's something a kid would just do. Like, it really is like a kid is a product of their surroundings. I don't think any kid is inherently evil, but I think depending on how you treat the kid, because they're just no thought sponges and they soak up every small thing. Even when they're babies and you don't realize that what you're doing is impacting the kid. So to be in an environment that is that so evil, consciously on purpose by the adults that are supposed to take care of you, I really think there's a level of like this kid literally could not have understood what they were doing. And I think that it really does fall on the parents to be like, it's your fault too. Like, I almost feel like the mom should have gotten convicted for putting the daughter in that kind of a situation,
oh,
you
no,
know?
for sure. Like, charges definitely should have been brought. Both
Like, there's some
parents.
child neglect going on there.
No, it's not even neglect, it's full on abuse.
Well,
Both.
yes, you know what I mean.
I'm aware. But, like, both parents should have been brought up on charges. Actually, I there was a case recently where, they decided to press charges against the parents of a school shooter because the child had access to the guns in the home.
Yeah,
And that was actually the first time that has ever happened before, and
I
uh,
second that.
a lot of people are like, "That's gonna set a dangerous precedent." No, you're
If
look
you think that parents getting persecuted for giving their children the access, the capability, or the mental awareness that it would take to do something like that at a young age, if you are responsible for making sure that doesn't happen because you're a parent and it happens, that is 100% your fault and you have a hand in this. It's almost like assistance in like a crime.
yeah, it's they got charged for yeah.
Yeah.
But that's also, like, again, it's a weird sticky situation because I've also seen cases where, the child grows up with no reported abuse, like, happy-go-lucky, and then they go out and kill people as children. So, you also have to, like, keep in mind that she was a diagnosed psychopath. Granted, it's possible that the trauma that she went through.
But not every psychopath is a murderer.
No, but they are not every psychopath is a murderer, but
But
there are
all murderers
murderers
are
are psychopaths.
psychopaths.
No, that's actually a very dangerous thing to make. No, but she also was a psychopath, so we don't know if that was triggered by her trauma. I posit that it was triggered by the trauma.
I think she didn't probably realize what she was doing.
I think she did. She lied to both children, lied to the police, and there was an attempt made to cover up the crime. I think she knew what she was doing was wrong. I think she honestly was so angry and so pissed off about what she had been put through that
She took it out on another kid.
she took it out on somebody who couldn't fight back because she couldn't take it out on the people who were actually hurting
And
her.
she couldn't take it on anyone her age. She went after someone who was much smaller than
Not
her.
necessarily, because she did take it out on kids her age. She literally shoved sand down a girl's throat.
Yeah, but, like, she didn't kill anyone her age.
No, and I think she just
They were unfortunately the easiest targets.
yeah, because I mean, if let's be honest,
Toddlers don't know. Toddlers don't know shit.
no, and I'm gonna be honest with you, if you're angry and you're upset at the situation you're in, and you can't
Murder's not the option.
it's not the option, but if you can't lash out back at the people who are hurting you, you tend to lash out on people who can't fight back or who
Yeah.
won't fight back.
Yeah.
It's a very unfortunate thing, and that's kind of where a lot of people get this idea that once you're a victim of abuse, you're going to become an abuser.
I don't think that's the case.
Again, it's not the case.
Once you're a victim of abuse, depending on when it starts, I think you don't realize when you're being abusive. But I think that there is a level of, like, this is fucked up. Like, when you realize this is fucked up how you're being treated, you make a conscious effort to not do it again. I think it takes a lot of self-awareness.
It does. It takes a lot of self-awareness. I think Mary was just too young to have that self-awareness. She was in an environment when nobody around her seemed to have that self-awareness either.
Yeah, so she couldn't have learned it from anyone.
No.
Because a lot of things are learned. So many things are learned that we don't realize.
Yeah. So I feel bad for her. Like I do, but
Also, you killed someone.
she killed 2 little kids. She killed 2 babies.
That's hard.
And it's a very hard thing, and I'm sure the parents are devastated. Like some of this like the sisters of Martin, at least from the interviews I saw, they seem to be very conflicted themselves. Like they hate Mary for killing their brother, but they also are like she was so young. And there are some people who called Mary pure evil, and then others are just like, oh, she's just a victim of her environment. It's a very it's what I'm trying to pretty much get at is stuff like this, cases like these, especially in cases like Mary specifically, it's not black and white. There are shades of gray, there's shades of black, there's shades of white. It's not just clear cut one way or the other. Like if I really want to like get into it, not right now. Like I'm not going to do like a full deep dive into it, but we can talk about Chris and Shanann Watts.
Yeah.
Chris was an awful, horrible man, but
Mhm.
you also have the fact that Shanann also wasn't the best wife either. And I'm not saying that's an excuse to kill her, get a fucking divorce. She was very demanding, she was very aggressive.
They both had their issues,
Both
but
of them have their issues,
wasn't
but
an excuse to kill anyone.
no. But then you have some people who argue the fact, well, maybe if she chilled out a bit and calmed down and backed off, maybe she wouldn't be dead. And I'm like, that's a very dangerous position to take, but maybe.
Maybe, but
We can't debate maybes.
well, also I feel like saying that implies that, like,
She
it's
deserved.
the same idea of, like, the well, what were you wearing argument. It's like having, like, understanding that there are nuances to each case, and there are situations where, you know, well, this person could have been less this and this person could have been less this, but no one goes into a relationship with these problems thinking that the other person's going to commit the worst crime.
Yeah, nobody's going to see an 11-year-old girl walking down the street and wonder if she's killed somebody. I mean, you guys might now after you've listened to this.
I will.
But
I'm suspicious of every 11-year-old now. And I already hate kids.
which is hilarious
Because
because
we have one. But fuck. Well,
but again,
thanks.
that's my case. I'm going to be 1,000% honest. Next week is worse.
I'll do better then.
Next week is so much worse. Next week doesn't really involve children, which is the best I can do because it is very bad and it's going to get pretty graphic. That's my trigger warning for that. I should have put up a trigger warning for this one, and I'm so sorry I did not. While we are a true crime
Yeah, assume that there's
podcast,
always triggers.
there's always going to be triggers, but I usually do better in trying to explain what those triggers might be. So I feel, well, maybe I don't. I'm going to try to do better in the future about it. Because even though true crime is
All bad.
all bad, it doesn't have
There's certain things in certain stories that are going to upset certain people, and there's certain things in certain stories that aren't going to upset the same people, and it's important for them to know when those distinctions are going to be made, so they don't think, oh, this is probably fine, and then out of left field the weirdest thing happens, and then suddenly the worst thing that could have been said.
Yeah, so I am going to put the trigger warnings down in the description, as well as the
If you
post when
ever
this goes
want
up.
also a heads up on what's going on, sorry, I'm cutting something up. If you ever want a heads up on what's going on story wise, you can also always check our Instagram. Crazy. We put photos up there of everything that we talk about as well. Anything photo wise that we mention in our stories, they go up there.
Yeah, it's usually this goes on the same day
Yeah,
as the.
usually goes up on the same day. Sometimes we miss it, but we'll also put triggers in the caption there. So if you want to look and see what we're doing, what the photos are, to get an idea of what's going on, the cover photo is going to have all of the photos listed. There are typically all the photos or the main photos listed in each individual slide, but they're super tiny. So you can get a good idea of what's going on, very small, and then we'll have the triggers in the description as well. So if before you even come here, you can look on our Instagram. Please follow us on Instagram, and we'll put stuff there.
Yeah. Alrighty, so that's my case.
You
I'm
ever
so
cut up
sorry.
something when you're angry?
Yes. I like ripping things.
At the thing that you're cutting up.
Oh.
So my notes are actually structured very differently now. So I'm sorry. Okay, so ironically enough, I'm talking about something that is not, it's not England, but it is named after something, not after, but it's the same name as something in England, which causes me a lot of issues.
You're
So
like, wait a minute.
it fucked me up for a minute. Okay, so
It got you fucked up?
got me fucked up. Let me take a sip of my, if anyone wants to know what my poison of choices, I have a Monster Energy Drink Ultra Fantaby Ruby Red. Fantasy. It's an S. It looks like a B though. Does it look like a B?
Yeah, a little bit. I am currently drinking a regular Monster because I'm a monster in and of itself, and I like drinking battery acid.
If anyone has ever tried the ruby one, I don't know how to explain it, but it kind of tastes like dirt.
But like good dirt.
No, it just tastes like dirt.
To me, it tastes like prime dirt.
It does taste like prime dirt.
Like
Definitely dirt I would eat as a kid.
yeah.
Like not mulch, but like wet dirt. Like
Yeah.
garden dirt, like
Yeah.
fertilizer. It tastes like fertilizer. There, we got there eventually.
And everybody's wondering, is Mythos okay? The answer is no. Never.
I think I cried for like an hour straight last night.
You needed to.
I needed to.
No, because like here's the thing. Crying actually releases like a bunch of those like stress.
I've needed to cry for like 2 weeks because I really doubt that anyone who is related to the old situation is like currently listening to this point. I'd be surprised if they were, all things considered. But if anyone wants to know what my true feelings are, so I'm the kind of person that if I'm in a situation where I'm like not happy, but I need to like be happy with the situation in order to like pay my bills and take care of people around me, I will just pretend to love what I'm doing. And I actually surprised my mentor over this too, because I was talking to him about it, and he was like, I thought you loved the job and I thought you loved, the other owners. And I was like, I didn't. I loved the job. The job was great. And my last shift that I actually had at the job felt like, I actually said it to Psychos on the way home. It felt like a perfect last shift. I didn't intend it to be my last shift, but it felt like the perfect last shift, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Because it really was just the perfect last shift. It was great. I cried as I was going home. My last event of the night was just so wholesome and sweet, and it just kind of solidified everything that I loved doing about that job. And I still am sad that I don't work there anymore. Anyway, so I left, and everyone was really surprised by it, I think, because I don't think anyone anticipated me leaving. 'Cause I'm the kind of person that I'm very loyal to a company when I work there. If they treat their employees well, I'll stay loyal. But the last month or so, things just got bad. They weren't paying people properly, and they made some bad business investments, and it was really fucking over their employees. Just not doing things legally. And while I was talking to a friend of mine who runs a similar company nearby, he was telling me that some of the stuff that I was saying was just like fully illegal, and really fucked up. And a lot of people that I've talked to about this are like, this is really fucked up. So a situation happened where basically I was not working enough to help cover our bills. Got a second job somewhere that is incredibly hard to get a job at. I put in 20 applications. I got back 3 responses, one from the place that I actually wanted to work at, kind of, and just for the same company. So I took it immediately. Paid way better, way more hours, way better benefits, all that stuff. And this new job that I have has set hours, which means I have a set schedule that I come in and work like 5 to 10 or like 4 to 6 or whatever. Like I have set
Working
hours.
9 to 5.
9 to 5. Yeah.
Which is basically what you did today.
Yeah.
And we know that 9
Literally
to
9 to
5 is
5.
your, like, your sweet
Oh my
spot.
God.
Despite you
Going in
working
at 9
retail.
o'clock and leaving at 5:30 is actually the most perfect shift for me given my job. But my other job was like literally on call. Like I could get called in to come work at 11 o'clock at night and I would be there for like 2 hours. So it was just very taxing on my mental health. And it also, like, we had to stop recording in the middle of episodes a lot to be able to go to work. Or like I got calls at like past midnight from my managers, which is not appropriate. But I also couldn't do anything. I was on the schedule every single day, so I had to be ready to come in on call on the top all the time. So I couldn't like go see a movie. I couldn't go to the mall. I couldn't do anything that required me to not be able to check my phone every 10 minutes. And I couldn't like I had to like step away. And asking off I could do, but like it wasn't really encouraged given how much the company relied on me as a person. Anyway, so I got a second job and they didn't want to work with me on it at all. And they were basically just like, we want you to have us be the priority, which having anyone who's worked on call knows that having a company that's 100% on call, by the way, I wasn't getting a base pay or anything per day for being on call. I only got paid for the times that I was at the building working, which you're supposed to get a base pay of 4 hours, I think, if you work on call, right? 4 hours, something like that.
Something like you're either supposed to get a base pay of like a certain amount of hours per day that you're on
Or they
call,
can't
or
if they heavily restrict what you can do, which they didn't technically heavily restrict, but they emotionally heavily restricted everything, then you're supposed to get a base pay of 4 hours if you can't do anything with your day.
like if like you either are supposed to get like a base pay or you're supposed to
Be like salary,
be
right?
salaried. Yeah, you
I
have.
was neither.
It's not. It's great.
Which is illegal. But I think technically speaking, we're part time, we were part time, so it was different. But it was just having a place that's set schedule, working around a part time on call position where I could take a day off from this set schedule that pays way more, but I could end up having nothing going on that day if I'm not called in to work. Was just not okay. And I was just I was being spoken to pretty rudely, which is like a consistent thing with these people. And I just decided that I didn't want to handle that abuse anymore. Being in college and having this chance to be a scientist again gave me a lot of self-confidence back that I needed, and I just realized I just wasn't taking that anymore. So I very suddenly quit. And I don't regret it because they don't give you 2 weeks notice when they're going to fire you, so you don't have to give 2 weeks notice when you quit. My dad actually said that, which was very surprising to me when I called him. Spent 5 hours debating with multiple different people in and outside of the company on if I should leave or not. And everyone was like, no, you should quit. So I quit. And then the owners immediately started talking shit and being shitty people. And it just, it's fine.
Which is funny because I still work there.
You still work there. like my partner's not going to see it. Oh my God. It's crazy. Anyway, but we're separate people. So why I leave and what I do is not a reflection of Psychos. And if anyone treats Psychos poorly because of my decisions, that's shitty behavior and that's abuse. Anyway, the ghost ship of Northumberland Strait.
A hell of a fucking transition. Dear God. You really said,
Anyway.
anywho.
So that's why I've been kind of absent the past month. It was a big transition for me because I was with this company for a pretty long time and I had no intentions of leaving. And I literally was like their go-to person. But I'm not gonna get used.
And you shouldn't be.
And I won't anymore.
Well,
Maybe by you.
yeah. It is Pride Month.
It is Pride Month.
Anyway,
okay.
go
So,
ship.
Go ship. So, this was plastered on the side of a U-Haul. I saw it about 16 hours ago. And unfortunately there is like nothing about this ghost ship.
Oh, well, I thought it was like 24 hours ago now.
No.
A little bit over 24 hours ago.
24 hours ago?
Yeah, seeing it.
Oh, wait, not 16. When did we come home? At like 2?
Yeah, we got home like around
I can't
2:30,
do
3
math.
o'clock.
2:30 yesterday, it's 9:30 now.
So, like,
Whatever.
over 24 hours
Over
later.
24 hours ago, but not 48 hours ago, I saw this. And I was like, I'll do that, because I was so burnt out on, like, I literally, the last, like, month, I've had to have Psychos read shit for me. And I've just kind of told my professor, like, I'm sorry if stuff's misspelled, but I literally can't read anymore because I was so burnt out on just looking at shit and also, like, thinking. Because getting out of an abusive situation with a job and then transitioning into a different job, that was just chaos. It was a lot for my little pea brain. So
Yeah, just to like let you guys know,
we're going really easy on me this time.
we're going really easy, and I'm probably gonna be in like the same place in a couple weeks.
Yeah, because Psychos is also looking for a new job. Anyway,
We'll see.
Okay, so the ghost ship of Northumberland Strait, of the Northumberland Strait, I guess. So this is a Canadian story. It actually takes place. So there is, I don't know if you know what Canada looks like.
I know.
Sure as hell don't.
I barely know what the United States looks like. I'm gonna be
Fact.
1,000% honest with you.
Canada is north of us.
Really?
Yeah. In case you were curious.
Oh, you're gonna hate what I am about to say.
What?
The initials for the 3 like North American things spell out cum. Canada.
Oh my god, you're right. Technically, Mexico is Central America, though.
Oh, that's fair.
There's also way more stuff in Central America than Mexico. What do we got down here? Guatemala, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, Belize, Honduras.
Well,
What else do we
technically
have down
Costa
here?
Rica's... No, that's Puerto Rico. Never mind. Ignore me.
Yeah?
I was about to say something, and then I realized I was wrong. And I am a person who can be wrong.
What were you going to say?
I was going to be like, technically, Costa Rica's an American territory. And then I was like, oh, wait, no, that's Puerto Rico. That's why I corrected myself. I was like, wait, no, wrong one.
What is this
That's
tiny
Cuba.
ass island right here? Oh, that's Puerto Rico. Oops. Anyway.
Well, then.
Okay. So, Canada, left to right, we have British Columbia, Alberta, this lower half. Before anyone shits on me. Lower half of Canada going left to right, we have the British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, and Newfoundland and Labrador. And then on the northern tip of that area, I don't know why this isn't just... Well, okay, that's weird. I actually didn't know that was a thing. On the rest of the stretch of that area, we've got New Brunswick, Nova Scotia. I know what you know Nova Scotia is. Newfoundland, and then we also have Prince Edward Island and whatever the fuck this island is right here. Anticosti Island.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Whatever. And then on the northern end, because there's just like a straight line between Canada, we've got Alaska, which is a U.S. territory. We've got the Yukon territory.
Alaska is a U.S. state.
Territory and state? I don't give a shit.
Okay,
it belongs to the U.S. Territory, I'm just using that as it belongs to the U.S. I understand territory is a different situation. It's a land that is of the U.S. It's a U.S. state. I know that. But it belongs to the U.S. I'm using territory as the placeholder for the word land or place.
Can you fix that?
What? This wobbling?
Yeah. Yeah, it's still a little wobbly, but it's not on the edge anymore.
Just ugly.
So it's
the Yukon territory, Northwest Territories, and I know that anyone who lives here is like, yeah, I know you can't pronounce our shit. Nunavut? Nunavut? Nunavut.
None of it.
None of it. I didn't realize how close Canada was to Greenland. Holy shit. Anyway, God, the US is so small. Anyway,
Which is hilarious
which is
comparatively.
amazing. Okay, so our concern is going to be on the farthest east coast of Canada. So this is actually, I think, part of the farthest east that you're going to get. So this is technically this is New Brunswick. So the area that we're talking about is in the New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia triad. So Prince Albert Island. So here's how it looks. So we've got New Brunswick, and then we have Nova Scotia. So it's like a little bowl-looking shape. And then in that bowl-looking shape is the curve of Prince Edward Island, right? In between that is a strait called Northumberland Strait.
I
Okay.
want everybody to know that they were kind of like demonstrating what it was, and it was the same as like watching those like baby sensory
Titanic
videos.
sinking?
No, the baby sensory videos.
With the fruit.
Yeah, with
I
the
hate
dancing
those, by
fruit.
the
I
way.
love
I
those.
hate those.
We have 2 different types of like autism.
Facts.
I'm so sorry for the level of chaos this episode is.
Oh my god. I'm actually losing my mind.
You haven't lost it already?
It's going somewhere. Oh my god. No, never mind.
What? Say it. Say
No,
it.
because we're gonna get on a tangent.
Say it.
So, scientists have recently started to develop brains, like grow brains in labs. Have you heard about this? I'm sorry. They actually have like little eyeballs, but they don't work. They're just like little black spots. I think that actually could be something else. But anyway, they could be sensors. But anyway, they look like scallops. Like they're just like kind of like white and like gooey,
What the
and they
fuck?
float around. But they're little brains. They're actual like human brains, right?
Go fuck off. No.
Well, so they have these brains in these jars, and they don't have any stimuli. So they're just growing. They don't do anything. But they were like, okay, let's see what happens if we put these brains in something that can have them interact with their environment to give them stimuli. So scientists decided that the best thing to put these little brains in were literally little dog, like a miniature poodle, not poodle, like a chihuahua sized metal spider robot.
That's actually terrifying.
And
That's
they
how the fucking...
and they move it like they like on their own with no control. If they are put in these things, they actually move and like grow. They also discovered that they can create and grow a vascular system for the brain, so we can actually keep the brains like alive for like way longer, because they're just brains. You just need blood. So as long as you just get blood pumping to the brain, it's never gonna die. Because brains don't really degrade. Like the brain, I don't know if you know this, but you're like, you know how your skin cells change out every now and then? Brains don't do that. In order to keep them alive originally, they were putting them in like rat and mice brains, and like they worked. Like they could go in and repair parts of the brains of the mice, and human brains have no issues just like plugging into an animal brain.
I don't like this.
Anyway,
you're like...
I was gonna say, did you see that they put human brains that they grew in labs in metal spiders? But
that's terrifying.
It had a lot of context to it.
I don't like that. I don't like that.
They're just little guys.
No.
Anyway,
Those
now they have outside stimuli, so we'll see. But they're not like people.
They're gonna kill us all. They're gonna kill us all and replace us.
Here's the thing, though, is like this raises a lot of moral questions, because if you grow a brain in a lab, does it have a soul or a consciousness?
Don't do this to me. Don't do this to me.
Are they aware?
Stop it.
They have to be, because they're brains, right? So, do they know things? Are they going to be sentient?
I hope not. I don't like this. You're giving me nightmare fuel. I'm gonna be haunted by tiny little...
This is 100% true, by the way.
Robotic spiders.
I can show you a video
like,
of them, actually.
no.
Do you want to see a photo
No,
of them?
no, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay, anyway. Can I get my fucking story, please?
I'm so sorry. Hey, no. It took me forever.
Now
just
you're
to get
doing it
back.
to me.
Yeah.
And now I want chippies and I can't. Oh my god. I came up with a name for it yesterday. I was asking Psychos if I love French onion dip and Ruffles regular original chips, by the way. And so I was like, can I have my chippy dippy? Anyway,
You can't
I
have
haven't
your
even gotten to my bullet points yet. Okay,
Suffer.
so Northumberland Strait. It's on the north coast of New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, right, which is Canada.
Yeah.
So, this story is it's a Canadian ghost story, shocker. And it is about a ghost ship that appears in the Northumberland Strait, and it is said to be on fire. Just on fire.
Oh, so that explains why the
The photo had the ship on fire, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So in the story, not in the story. So the thing is that we actually don't know where this ship came from. Like, we don't have the origin of the ship. We don't even have a name of the ship. It's just a ship that is on fire. Now, this is the very important thing. So I actually did a little bit of digging to figure out what the fuck was going on. So it was specifically described as a schooner, sail ship.
Oh, I always pronounce those as schooner.
Is it schooner?
Is it schooner or schooner?
I thought it was schooner.
The schooner? I hardly know her.
It's
I'm sorry.
Woo! All right. Fair enough.
I'm so sorry.
We've been watching a little too much Curtis. I see. There is sometimes I'll just be sitting there and you'll say some shit and I'll look at you and in my head all I hear is that sound from a Home Improvement. Because of Curtis Connor. Anyway.
I'm sorry.
Let's look it up. How to pronounce. How to make insulin at home.
That's illegal.
No. Schooner. It's schooner.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. How does it feel to be wrong?
I'm used to it. Okay, a schooner. Okay, so it's a schooner is what it is. Now, it's just okay. So I'm gonna say words and then I'm gonna explain them. So for people who know boats, it is sometimes described as a square rigger, but it is also sometimes and typically described as a topsail schooner. This ship is typically depicted with 3 or 4 masts and white sails, pure white sails. Now, what the fuck is a schooner? I'm so glad you asked. A schooner is a type of boat, but it's a type of boat that is described by its rig. So the way that the sails are set up and the way that they are angled and the way that the like ropes and everything are tied in a certain way, the way the masts are spaced out.
Yeah.
That's the rig of the ship.
Okay.
So a schooner is a fore and aft rig. Now the rig means the equipment with the masts and all that stuff on 2 or more masts. Now, fore and aft, it took me fucking forever to figure out what this means.
Doesn't fore mean like front and aft mean
Yeah,
back?
so a fore and aft rig is when the sails are set to be I looked up like 50 different things for this, so let me get through it. Fore and aft rig is when the sails are set along the line of the keel instead of perpendicular. So if you ever look at an old boat and you'll notice that in drawings or like older boats that you see, there's this one long beam of wood that goes right on the bottom of the boat, in the middle of the boat, up to the front and back end of the boat, right?
Yeah.
That's the keel of a boat. Now, traditionally, the keel was actually the first thing made on a boat, and that was like laying the keel. That's like the beginning of the boat process, and the
Yeah.
rest of the boat was built around the keel.
Yeah, that's what they did for the Titanic.
Yes, that is not a thing anymore.
Damn
The
it.
keel and the hull of the boat are typically made separately and then kind of together at the same time. The keel isn't really a thing anymore. It's usually just where the hull meets. It's not like a set piece of wood anymore, but it typically was. So what it means is that the keel runs from the front to the back of the boat, right down the center of the boat, right?
Yeah.
So a fore and aft sail rig is going to have the sails running basically long ways down the boat instead of being like flat. So if you're standing on the boat and you're standing at the back of the boat and you're looking towards the front of the boat, if you the sails are like flat in front of you like a TV screen, that is a square rig, I believe. If it is turned so that it's like thin, so you're looking down the boat and the sails aren't flat to you, they're like thin to you,
Mhm.
that is fore and aft. So it's long ways versus like short ways, right?
Yeah, and so, like
It's okay, so
like, if
this is gonna make very weird sense. Fore and aft is hot dog style. Square rig is hamburger style
no,
on the boat.
what I was thinking was, square are the pirate ships from Pirates of the Caribbean, and, f
A
s
schooner would be like Moana's boat.
oh, I was thinking, like, whenever you draw a boat in, like,
Yeah, like a
kindergarten.
sailboat, and it's like 2D, and so you just draw like the triangular sail.
Yeah.
That's a schooner.
Yeah,
That's a schooner.
that's how
No,
I was
that's
gonna
literally a
describe
schooner.
it.
Yeah. So there's different types of sails that a schooner can have. It depends on where the bars that hold up the sail are. There's different shapes for the sails, whatever. Schooner is typically a 2 or 3 masted ship anyway. Very importantly, they are typically European style vessels. So they were most common in the western side of the eastern hemisphere kind of boats. They're still used to this day. They're typically used for racing, I believe. They're typically very fast boats. There are some schooners that are used for cargo, but they're typically used for not like leisure, but that's kind of what they're used for racing mostly now.
Okay,
Okay, so a schooner. Got it? Everyone got a schooner.
we got a schooner.
Topsail just means that it has a second sail on top of the first one at the very front of the boat.
Okay.
And it just, I guess the way that the sails are set makes it go faster. Probably because it's not, I don't like it can cut, I think, better.
Schooner go zoom.
Schooner goes in. Okay. So this ship is typically seen going northeast or just north in general, I think depending on where it's seen in the strait. Um it's typically seen before the northeast wind, and it's typically the warning of a bad storm about to hit. So,
Oh shit, we got warning.
yeah. So this is an omen ship basically. So this ship is said to be going very, very fast, almost impossible speeds typically. I think people aren't used to seeing boats going fast though, because typically when we see boats, they're not going at full speed ahead.
Well,
Even cruise ships, you don't see a lot of ships going full speed ahead nowadays.
even with ships that do go kind of
They're
fast, they're
not
still
moving super fast.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're still kind of slow compared to like people with cars or trains. It's like,
but like I've been on sailboats and like in the Bahamas, and we were not going at full speed because I think we were actually on a schooner too, but we were still within the coast, so we still had to be careful of like, whatever. But these boats move pretty quickly, and they're not super massive boats, but this boat is a full like a cargo boat. It's the same kind of boats that were used during the slave trade. Fun fact.
oh,
Not so fun fact. It was the boats that they would use to transport slaves over. So, anyway,
lovely.
saw that in my research. Okay, so typically this ship is seen with it's just fully ablaze. So either just the sails will be on fire, or the whole ship will be on fire, or the rigging will be on fire. So the ropes, the sails, or just the whole ship will be on fire. Typically, you'll also see the crew running back and forth trying to put out the fire. You'll see people jumping overboard. Also, it's said that at some point someone saw a dog on board,
No.
just trying to put out the fire. It typically is spotted between like spring and fall time, so like end of summer, fall time.
Which is
But
usually where a lot of storms happen, right?
yes, but it also has appeared in the dead of winter when this strait is completely frozen over. Which isn't the weirdest thing in the world, because I have heard of ships. And this is not a steamer ship, by the way. Just a heads up. I want to make that clear. This is a wind ship, not a steamship. That is important later on. But I have heard of ships, typically steamships, that have been able to like break through ice. That's a thing. This is not the case. This is like an old ship, a wooden ship, if you will. Okay. They also typically see this ship at night, near dusk or just after dusk or right before dawn. So I never see it in the daytime. It is said that sometimes the ship will be heard, they'll hear a cannon blast and then they'll see a big ball of fire and then you'll see the ship. So it's like it got hit and then it caught on fire and then you're seeing the fire burning. So here are just some of the spottings that I managed to write down. And I know that if you go on the wiki, you're going to see some of this stuff, blah, blah, blah. I looked at some blogs. I have all my sources out. I'll get to it. So the first sighting supposedly was in 1786 on Sea Cow Head Lighthouse.
Yikes.
The
That's
keeper
old.
saw the ship fully engulfed in flames heading directly towards the rocks that he was trying to ward people away from in the lighthouse, which, by the way, lighthouses scare the shit out of me. However, just before the ship hit the rocks, it suddenly turned into the storm and vanished. In my personal opinion, I think it's actually 1886 and not 17. Okay, it's either 1786 or 1986. I might have fucked up the number on that.
It's okay. I fucked up the number like real bad on my
In 86. In 86.
Yeah, I fucked up the number real bad on the Goldilocks
Yeah.
episode. I was like, I forgot what fucking year this happened.
So, January 1988 on the Borden coast. There's a ferry that spots the ship ahead of it, but it wasn't on the radar. So the ship, the ghost ship, was actually within the view of the radar, but it wasn't showing up on the radar. But the crew could see it ahead of them. They could see the ship on fire. Now,
That's gotta be trippy.
Yeah, Captain Angus Brown took the ferry Prince Nova out to help this ship, but as he was approaching it, it vanished. The same night, a couple near Glengarry saw the ship. I think it's just a town on the coast. They saw the ship from their bedroom, and they watched it for a whole hour. It was out on the water. They could see it. A crew of men were working in the port of...
Question. So they, like, I'm still trying to process the fact that they saw this from their bedroom window, watched it for an hour. Did they, like, not call for help, or?
So the details are very fuzzy. I think that they called and the ferry was what was sent out to help them. I think the ferry was sent out to go grab the crew who was jumping overboard, but it vanished by the time the ferry got out there.
Okay, that's fair.
I think that's what happened.
Sorry, I was just, like, still processing,
No,
and then
you're
you were
good.
like, moving on, and I was like, wait, no, go back.
A crew of men working in the port of Charlottetown, which is on Prince Edward Island, whatever.
No, charlatan. It's a charlatan. You know what a charlatan is, right?
Like a whore, right?
No.
What is it?
A fraud.
Oh, Charlottetown.
What is that, a whore? No.
I'm thinking of harlot.
Yeah. That's a whore.
English is hard for me. It's not my first language. Let me live. Oh, by the way, I'm trying to convince Psychos to learn Navi with me.
You haven't needed to convince me. I want to learn
like
it.
Avatar. Anyway,
fucking nerd.
So this crew was working when they got word of the ship engulfed in flames. They sailed out to go help the ship, only for it to vanish right when they were about to get it. Now, there was a full search conducted for the ship, assuming that it went down. They found nothing in the strait at all. Which means, if this ship did crash here, they also haven't found the wreck of the ship. A group of divers near Cape John saw a ship on the horizon that had a strange glow around it. It lasted for about 2 hours and was seen by multiple people also driving on the roads nearby.
Well, that's weird. But also, you know how many, like, ships and shit sink and we have no idea what happened to them to this day? Like,
I think the thing is that there's no record of a schooner going missing in this area.
Yeah, but we also have...
And also, no one's been able to see a name on the ship.
Ooh.
It's just a ship. Yeah, there's no record of a name being on this ship. That's what I'm saying. We don't know the name of the ship.
It's
just
anything.
An unnamed, unregistered white schooner. That's it. That's all we know. So, can you believe I found a way to bring Christianity into this
God
story?
damn it.
Not right now, but soon.
Oh my god.
1973, Marvin McLeod, MacLeod,
Mc-
MacLeod, MacLeod, MacLeod,
McLeod.
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 Fuck that.
That's Scottish.
Fuck that. They'll appreciate it. 1973, Marvin
McLeod.
Thank you. Was coming home from Murray Harbor when he spotted the ship at about 12:30 in the morning. He said it was a 3-masted schooner with men trying to put out the fire and or jumping overboard. He was about to rush home to call the Coast Guard when it disappeared right before his eyes.
You know that there are some people who like saw this like really late at night and wondered
They're
if
like,
they were
I'm high
dreaming.
as fuck.
No, they're like this has to be a
This would be
dream.
a dream.
This is a really fucked up dream. So I wonder if that's the reason why there aren't as many like sightings as there should be.
There's a lot of sightings actually. These are the only ones that had names. 1978, Leon Patton, the lightkeeper at Wood Islands, I don't know where that is, got a call from Bernice Smith, who lived up the road from the lighthouse. She asked him, "What are you burning?" And he said, "Nothing." And she said, "Go look out your window." And when he did, he saw the ship on fire. And then you'll never believe what happened next.
It disappeared.
It vanished.
My favorite thing is like, what are you burning? I'm not fucking burning anything. What are you, high?
Go
Are
look out
you?
I like how she wasn't like, "Hey, there's a ship on fire." She was like, "What are you burning?" And I'm like, the lighthouse and the ship are like nowhere near each other.
She's like,
So
what are you doing?
Why did you set that ship on fire? She's Bernice. Chill.
No, she's like legitimately, she's the Karen.
She's a Karen.
You know,
Leon,
she called like the HOA
Leon.
on his ass.
What are you burning? What do you mean you're not burning a ship? Well, look out your window.
Like, you know, like they have had fights. Like, oh my gosh, your friend's a little
The
too
fact
close.
that he knew it was Bernice from up the road. He saw the caller ID and he was like,
Motherfucker.
"Motherfucker." Anyway, can you tell we spend a lot of time together? Okay, so where the fuck did this ship come from?
Where did the
What is it?
Where did the ship come from?
So here's the thing. I looked up a couple different blogs and they all listed different ships that it could be. There's no record of these ships existing. So I did my own research. I looked up all of the documented shipwrecks that happened in or around this strait, not including the Titanic. There is no record of any kind of schooner sinking or burning, anything like that in this area. Every single ship that we have documented that has sank in this strait was a steamship, typically a World War I or II ship, like military ships or in submarines. But we have no record of a shipwreck of a schooner anywhere in this strait or near it.
So, like, there's no evidence of a schooner sinking, but like,
And also the ships that people were saying these ships are called, or it could be the ghost of this ship. I looked up those ships and I could not find any record of those ships.
Well, that's also because they might have had access to like records that are offline.
No,
but
it's considered different parts, it looks like, of the coast called the ship by different names. But when I went to go look up where those came from, I couldn't find it. There's also a book that was written by a guy who documented all of the different tales of people seeing this ship. And it looks like it's a reference book in some Canadian libraries, but I could not get my hands on it.
yeah,
It's
we're not
impossible.
Canadian.
Well, also, like, you can't find it online. I found a sample of it, but I wasn't able to buy it. I would have bought it, but I couldn't find it.
But I also wonder if it's just because records back when like schooners were a thing were like fucking non-existent.
Schooners have been consistently used. That's
They've
the thing.
been
Steamships are only really used for like long travel.
Yeah, I
or
mean,
like certain cargo things, but like there are people who still make like that sailboat that I went on. They sail that trail all the way from Scotland all the way down to the Bahamas. They make that trip twice a year back and forth on a sailboat that is literally like 30 feet wide.
well, what I meant was like when schooners were like popular and popularly used, because like granted, I think the only times that they're used anymore are for like Rich people.
No, actually, you'd be surprised.
Okay,
A
well,
lot of ships nowadays are still classic sailing ships. There's still an active pirate ship, like an old ship that's like 200 years old that still goes out on rescue missions. There was an article about it recently. It sailed out of England, I think.
nice.
Like, these ships are still in use, and they're still very sturdy ships. They're considered very sturdy compared to, like, modern ships. So
Probably.
all that technical shit.
Okay, so if it's so it could be a modern ship, it could not be, but, like,
But the sightings are going back about 200 years.
which would means around that time, though, records weren't always kept.
Yeah.
Like, if a ship sank, literally all a ship would do is just go missing, and they would have no way to know where it went missing, where it sank, or any of it. They just know it just fucking disappeared off the face of the earth.
But the thing is that it's been so long, especially in this strait, I really don't think that it would have been a ship that would have been making that long trip across the ocean. It could have been. It is sailing. Given the direction that it's sailing, it looks like it's leaving the strait out into the open ocean. It's heading east out of Nova Scotia.
Yeah, so it could have been like a trade ship or something that just
But that also means that if it was sailing out, it would have just left port, which means there's no way they wouldn't have seen it. Because if it was a ship that was leaving anywhere, New Brunswick, anywhere in that Gulf of St. Lawrence, I think it is. Yeah, if it was leaving the Gulf of St. Lawrence and heading out into the open ocean, that means that it would have been sailing out of port, which means there's no way that a ship went from its port, didn't even make it out of the strait, which, by the way, they didn't need to go through the strait, but whatever. You can go out north of the island and still make it out. So it had to have been sailing somewhere where it would have been more cost effective to go through the strait than over the island. So it had to have been sailing out of port to go to open ocean, and it caught fire at some point and didn't even make it out of the Gulf. Which means there's no way they wouldn't have had a record of that. There's just no fucking way. Even by the time it made it out of port, they would have seen it on fire. And also, if it was a battle that took place where it was shot by a cannon and caught fire, which I can't think of a reason why a cannon blast would make a ship catch on fire, but whatever. But if it was in a battle, it would have been documented because battles were heavily documented back then. So it's a weird situation, but also it's a ship that has no markings and no name. It's not flying a certain flag, it's not flying certain colors. It's got pure white sails, no flag, and no name.
that's
It's just a schooner.
that's really weird because I know at least I don't know much. I don't
But
know
I do
much.
know this.
A lot of times they did fly their country's flags. Like
Mhm.
they at the very least had country flags, even if the name wasn't written somewhere. And usually it was written somewhere. If barring the name, they at least had the flags.
Yeah, so that's
So
what I'm
that's
saying.
weird.
Remember at the top of the episode I said it had white sails. It has pure white sails, no colors. So it's an literally unidentified white schooner. That's it.
So, do you think it could be like the thing that you were gonna talk about one day, the tulpa?
No.
Like, damn it!
No, I do not.
You should cover the tulpas one day.
I will, but not now.
Okay.
Okay, so according to my independent research outside of the blogs, there is no record of a ship that is a schooner sinking in this area. Every single boat that we have documented that has sunk is a steamer ship. So
Yeah.
there is a ship that I cannot pronounce the name of. I'll spell it out for you guys if you want to write it down. It's BAIE space CHALEUR. It's French, so I'm not saying it. It's a fire ship. So I'm just gonna call it the fire ship.
Fuck the
So
French.
this ship is actually a different ghost ship. It's a ghost light seen in Bathurst, New Brunswick, Canada, or in New Carlisle, Quebec.
Ooh, so it could have been a French thing that carried over.
Could have been. So this ship is actually, it's again a ghost ship, but it looks like when you see it an arc of light, and it's usually seen right before a storm. So it's a similar style of omen. It's on fire, but it's a 3-mast galley. Now I'll explain to you what that means. If you look at the ship from the side, actually I think if you look at the Quebec flag, it's on the Quebec flag, but if you look on the ship from the side, it's going to have a main mast in the center and then 2 smaller ones at each end. That's a 3-mast galley is what that is.
Mm.
But I think it's not a schooner. I think it's square rigged. I think it's the pirate ship looking flags or the sails. So that's this one. Now the locals of this area say that if you see the ship, I think, or if you don't see the ship, whatever, if you put your feet in the water of the strait or this area, you can hear the screaming of the passengers when you see the ship. You can hear them screaming.
That's actually terrifying. Fuck
Yes.
that.
However, this ship is most frequently seen on hot summer nights, which would make sense if it was like dry lightning or something like that.
Ooh, that's true. That's true.
Now,
And what you hear isn't screaming.
it's the electricity.
Yeah.
So,
That's your ass about to get
heat
electrocuted.
lightning. It's called heat lightning.
Get your feet out the water, you dumb
I'm so
bitch.
glad you brought that up, actually. That genuinely leads me into my next point. What people think that this could be is not some random schooner like ghost, it's an actual schooner that's sailing through this area with something called St. Elmo's light or St. Elmo's fire.
Ooh.
So, St. Elmo's fire, also known as witch fire or witch's fire. Now, this is a weather phenomenon that happens when plasma illuminates and creates a corona discharge from a rod-like object. This phenomenon was named after Saint Elmo, I think, or it's like Saint Elemus or something like that. Anyway, he's a patron saint of sailors. Now, it's Erasmus is what his name is. Now, he is a saint of sailors. In a weird way, I don't understand what the fuck's going on with Christians when they make up with this shit.
Oh, it's not Christians. It's Catholicism.
I don't understand Catholics. So he is said to have kept preaching after lightning struck next to him. And since pirates and sailors typically deal with storms and lightning, he was made the patron saint of sailors. So they thought that St. Elmo's fire was actually a good omen, but it's actually a weather phenomenon that happens a lot, and it happens a lot on planes specifically. So the way that it works is if you're on so I'm going to explain it on a plane. It's the same shit for when you're on a boat. So say you're on a plane and you're flying under a storm or through a storm, right? If you are the way that it kind of works, so if anyone doesn't know what electricity is the movement of, I believe, electricity. It's the movement of a charge from one thing to another. So, like, when you rub something really quickly and then you touch something and it shocks you, right?
Yeah.
What you're doing is you're rubbing off a bunch of particles, basically, but like electrically charged particles.
You
And
know
what?
you know what me and my little brother used to do?
What?
We would get on the carpet with our socks on, rub walk around like shuffling our feet with the lights off, and our mom taught us to do this. We would walk around shuffling our feet with the lights off, and then once we felt that we were good and ready, we would touch and we would shock each other, but because it was dark, you could kind of see the blue light.
Yes. So that's lightning.
That's like really cool.
So that's lightning. So basically, what happens is when a plane when a plane flies through a storm, the plane is actually negatively charged. The storm is positively charged. So what's going to happen is there's going to be a jumping of electrons from one thing to another. So, like, have you ever seen lightning in slow motion?
Yes.
Do you know how the lightning is? If you ever see it in slow motion, it's actually branching upwards.
Yeah,
It's
like
because
going
it's the
from Earth.
electricity going from Earth to the storm
Yeah.
to transfer that charge. The same thing, but with a plane. Same thing with a boat. So what's happening is the plane has a certain charge, and it's gonna have the opposite charge of the storm. So what St. Elmo's light does is it actually causes this like energy charge to build up on the plane itself. And inside, if you're in the plane and you're looking outside of the plane through the window, what it'll actually look like on the inside is a glow, like a green or purple glow around the window. You also see it at the end of the wings of a plane. You'll actually see a glow that looks like almost like a gasoline fire, like that blue kind of flame. It's the same shit. Now, it also happens to boats. And given the descriptions and the depictions of the boat, it looks like that's what's happening, where it's not actually on fire, but it's St. Elmo's fire on the ends of the rods that are holding up the sails. So it's actually on the rigging, but it's not catching fire. It's just the emission of this energy, because energy makes light as well, like different colors or different wavelengths and energy lengths. That's kind of the science behind it.
So would the cannon blast technically be clap of thunder?
It could be. It could be.
But
That is a
then
theory.
why would there still be people seeing people screaming and jumping off and trying to put out a fire on the boat itself?
We don't know. We don't know.
So I can see the sciencey bit being what's going on, but it doesn't explain all of it. It explains part of it, not all of it.
So, just to give everyone an idea of how St. Elmo's fire could, because I watched a video by a guy who's a pilot and he was talking about this, and he said that a lot of people don't know about this, so I'm telling you guys it. So, St. Elmo's fire does happen on planes, and for people who have never seen it before, it can be very frightening because you think the plane is on fire. If it scares you that much, close the window, you're fine. Now, is St. Elmo's fire dangerous to planes? Kind of.
Why would you tell me that?
According to the video that I saw, the issue that St. Elmo's fire can have is that what'll actually happen is there'll actually be charges that will jump from one part of the plane to the other. And it'll actually cause a fire to start on the outside of the plane, or it'll cause issues with the equipment on the inside, specifically the communication and radar. Now, these don't tend to go out for very long, maybe a few seconds. Maybe it'll just kind of interfere with it a little bit. But he said that after communication regains, which happens pretty quickly, there's just kind of a consistent static in the background, but it's literally the sound of the energy particles. Now, currently, there are precautions against it, and they haven't had any issues. I've never heard of a plane going down from St. Elmo's fire.
That you know of.
The way that they have dispelled it now is they actually have a protective coating that they put around the plane to protect it from these kinds of situations. Also, if you look at most modern planes, you're going to see a series of rods pointing forward on the front of the wings itself. Those are actually the rods that dispel St. Elmo's fire, the electricity off of it. Those get replaced pretty often as they get burned up by the electricity, and it really only becomes a problem if you're flying through a storm or right before a storm when the energy is starting to get charged up from a storm. You know how you can smell a storm? You can also feel a storm. If you can feel the energy and the electricity kind of building up or changing, it's the same thing. So when you mentioned that if you feel staticky and whatever right before lightning strikes, that's the precursor to St. Elmo's fire. That's what that is. That's what you're feeling. You're basically becoming an energy rod. That's kind of the same thing. People believe that that might be what is going on with this ship. However, it doesn't account for the fact that it is the exact same kind of schooner, the same description, no colors, no flag, no name, same mast style, roughly same mast style. There is some different ideas between a screw rigger, topsail schooner, 3 to 4 masts. It changes, but the fact that they all have white sails is very odd with no names. At some point, they're gonna have a ship with a fucking color on it. But anyway, that is the story of the ghost ship of Northumberland.
You must be fun at parties.
Hey,
No, because I love you, and you're like, here's the story of the ghost ship. Actually, here's a bunch of science.
I'm sorry.
No, it's great. No, don't apologize.
There was another theory too that people think it could be like an illusion of fog on the ocean, and I was like, shut the fuck up. I have never looked at fog on the ocean and been like, oh my god, I can see a ship on fire with people and a dog jumping overboard.
I mean, I don't think St. Elmo's fire can make you see people and a dog jumping overboard off a ship that's on fire, but
Agree to disagree, I guess. Now, the thing is it weird? Yes, it's weird. Do I think it's true? I don't know.
I mean, you have
I'm not against the idea of ghosts, but there's no record of it. I like the idea of it, I do, but I feel like if we were going to see ghost ships, we would see more ghost ships. I think, personally, it's just a schooner going through the water, or just a legend that's passed around the town that no one actually takes seriously, but it's a tale told by sailors. to basically say, oh, a storm's coming. Oh, well, you couldn't possibly know a storm's coming. Well, I know it's coming because I saw the ghost ship. So if you won't believe me, believe the ghost ship. It could just be bullshit that sailors tell. Sailors, they go crazy out there on the waters. I think they just kind of make shit up for funsies sometimes. I'm not saying this is, all sailors being crazy, but to me, it's weird that a ship would be sailing out of port and not have a record of it going down if it caught on fire before it even left the Gulf of St. Lawrence. That's weird to me. I don't know that, and they also haven't found any evidence of a wreck in this strait, but multiple ships have gone down in this area before. So if they were looking for another ship, they could have easily stumbled upon the wrong wreck. Also, a side note for anyone who wants to be an asshole about it, in my notes, the very last link that I have linked for you all is actually a link that goes to the Nova Scotia Shipwreck Mapping Project. It is a project where they're taking photos of and 3D replicating shipwrecks that they have witnessed and documented in and around Nova Scotia. There's a bunch of different maps. There's a bunch of different types of ships that you can go down and look at. But it's legitimately a 3D image of the wreck itself. You can look at it from the top, the side, whatever. Now they're still working on it. I think it's super cool. I wanted to mention it to you guys. Again, they're still working on it. I think it literally just started recently. But if anyone is interested, there is that. I think it's super cool. There's a maritime museum there as well in Nova Scotia that is super cool. That is there too. So if anyone wants to do their own independent research to try and figure out what this ship is, it is a 3 to 4 mast white sailed schooner. So, and it was seen beginning around 200 years ago. So whatever the standard size for a schooner back then, it was probably that. They're documenting shipwrecks. I don't think they have all of them mapped out, or they don't have them all categorized to figure out what these ships are. Some of them are just random shipwrecks that they found, but there's that for you. Also, all of my links for all the evidence, or not evidence, but all the stuff that I use outside of like basic wiki is in my notes. So that is the story of the ghost ship of Northumberland Strait. And yes, I'm very fun at parties. If I went to them. But I don't.
I think it's rather interesting. I also find it fun.
This is why people don't want me to do ghost stories, because I bring science into it. And everyone's like, no, I want to believe in the ghosts. I'm like, you can believe in the ghosts, but sometimes science is just right. And also, sometimes science doesn't have an explanation. And that's okay too. That's the whole point of everything. Science is meant to be disproved. If you disprove a scientist, it makes them more excited because now they can find a different explanation.
Mm-hmm.
So if we find out that there's no fucking way it's St. Elmo's light, okay, then what is it? Then why is it happening? People are actually seeing it. We can have documented evidence of this. Well, how does it happen? If we can't prove it with science, because here's the thing. In my personal opinion, since we're talking about ghosts, and we're talking about ghosts that I actually 100% kind of think could happen, not Amityville. If we're talking about ghosts, here's the thing. All of science at one point was fake, right? To us. The idea that particles could be broken up so tiny that they could literally be microscopic, even smaller. At one point, that was outrageous to us. The idea that we could be not at the center of our solar system was outrageous to us. The idea that there was this huge universe outside of us was outrageous, So I'm not saying, do I think that ghosts exist? I don't know. I think so, yes. But I think that there is a scientific way to explain it. We just haven't gotten there with science yet. I don't think that the paranormal and science have to be separate. I think the paranormal can be science, that we haven't had enough information to fully move it over into the field of science yet. Because science is a lot of proving and disproving stuff. And unfortunately, right now, a lot of the paranormal evidence that we have for stuff is either fully fabricated for views and attention, or is so unpredictable in its variables, you can't sterilely control in a set environment, consistent environment, control environment, test paranormal activity. There's a lot of unmeasurable stuff that goes on in researching the paranormal that is not conducive with consistent science. Now, does that mean that it is the paranormal evidence fault? No, science is very specific and rigid because there's certain things that we can accept and certain things that we cannot accept. So, do I think ghosts exist? I think that there's a possibility, but there's also a lot of evidence to say that that doesn't exist. It's in the middle. So, I think paranormal, spiritual stuff is just science that hasn't been proven to be science yet, or just doesn't exist. There, you can really only have one or the other. Either it exists or it doesn't. It's a thing or it isn't. In my mind, there's no does it exist maybe. It exists or it doesn't exist. Now that doesn't mean to say if it doesn't exist kind of a thing. It can exist and we just don't know it yet. Science is evolving, it's changing. We've only started doing science in the last like couple thousand years. Humans have been alive for so much longer than that, guys. So much longer.
What you guys don't see is Mythos actually about to cry.
Oh God, we've been alive for so long. Like, y'all, we just, in the grand scheme of things, like, we just discovered fire. Like, just discovered fire. Like, 2 days ago, just discovered fire. So, you know, I think it's okay if it takes us like another week to discover if ghosts are real.
Well, there's also the thing that I requested.
And stop making fun of me for tearing up when I get talking about something I'm passionate about.
No, baby, I thought you were getting frustrated.
No, I start crying. I start tearing up and crying whenever I talk about something I'm emotional. Like, I'm not like emotional about, but like something I'm passionate about.
I think it's cute.
I think it's dumb.
You don't make fun of me for crying. Well, yes, you do. Never mind. So I get to make fun of you. So
Fair enough. What were you gonna say?
there's also the thing that I sent you to do about that one science experiment.
Huh?
The thing that I requested with the science experiment with the group of scientists that came up with a ghost.
Oh yeah, I just can't remember her fucking name.
Well, his name. It was
her name.
His name.
Her name.
His name.
What? Wait, what are you talking about?
The ghost was a dude.
Yeah.
Bro, I just got finished listening to an audiobook about how fucking Slender Man was like an actual thing because of the belief.
The ghost that was created and
was
made up,
a man.
it was a blonde-haired woman in a red dress.
It was a man who had an affair with his maid, and when his wife found out, she left him, and then his maid left him, and so he jumped out the fucking window.
Maybe 2 different researchers did this. Because I remember listening to an episode of And That's Why We Drink where Em talked about this. And the only reason why I remember it, I'm so sorry, Em. The only reason why I remember it is because it was the episode that I was listening to when I got when I got let go from my job. Actually, no, I was listening to the Ouija board episode, but it's around there. And was on a spirituality kick. Yeah, no, it was a woman in a red. Did you send it? Where'd you send it to me?
I sent you the audiobook itself because
Did you text it to me?
I texted you the
Okay.
audiobook. The
listen to it.
audiobook does focus specifically on the idea that Slenderman is a real thing brought to life by our belief in him, specifically like tweens and like early teenagers' belief. It does touch on the fact that there was an experiment with this dude, or with a group of scientists who came up with this dude.
It can't be a unique thing then, because I remember another group of researchers came up with a woman.
I mean, I think
I
this
don't remember her name.
I mean, people have been trying to test this idea, I feel like, for ages, because I feel like that's actually where I'm probably going to get shot for this.
God comes from?
Where gods come from, like, as a whole. Like,
I think so too.
Like, imagine, like, putting belief behind an idea and then things start happening that kind of reinforce that idea and just makes you believe more, so you're just putting like more energy towards it. I don't know if it's like a spiritual thing or a metaphysical thing, like I don't know, but I think it's rather fascinating.
I think that the human brain is a lot more capable than we believe it to be.
I
And I want to refrain from getting into the spiritual shit because I do have a different understanding of humans based off of what I've been learning from my professor. But what I will say is that the human brain is a very interesting thing, and it's not here by accident, and it has a way of working itself out in ways that I think are very hard for people to understand. I think that there's a lot of things that go on in the universe that we don't really understand how we're connected to them as humans. And I think there's an area where biology and physics cross over that isn't like a car accident that um
that was fucked up.
isn't being heavily explored. As someone who is now like an anthropologist, but also is someone who was originally going to go to school for quantum mechanics, which everyone gets really surprised when I say that for some reason, like it's hard or something. But
Shut the fuck up, you Elle Woods wannabe.
um, but as someone who's very interested in quantum mechanics and also very interested in the anthropology and humans, I think that there's definitely something there that we don't grasp yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's
And like,
fair.
trust me, I have my moments where I sit there and I stare at a wall and I'm like, how do I exist? How does the world this big? Like, I sometimes I get really existential about the size of the universe. Trust me, I'm right there with you.
I get existential about what comes after life, and that's not something I want to get into right now. Because I
A
will,
party.
huh?
A party.
No, like I legitimately, like it will stop me like in my tracks, like in the
Both
middle of the
both
day.
Psychos and I have a lot of issues with the concept of death. A lot of it. Like I can't even think about it, or I literally shut down for like days.
Yeah,
So
I
like,
have had like I'll be like walking in the middle, like walking around at work, and like it'll hit me out of nowhere, and then I have like a panic attack,
yeah,
and
I'll
then I
usually
just
right afterwards I'll text you and I'll be like, "Are you okay?" And you'll be like, "Yeah, why?" And I'm like, "No reason." And then I just pretend like everything's fine, but like I literally just got done like panicking over the concept of like Psychos dying.
yeah.
When like Psychos is actually at home refusing to get out of bed
No, I get out of bed.
eventually.
The only time I really refuse to get like really refuse
It's when it's cold and you can't walk.
is when it's cold because my disability is triggered by the cold.
Mhm.
And it's like it's gotta be kind of toasty for me to get up. Otherwise, I cannot fucking move because everything is so fucking tensed and scrunched up. And I'm like, I can't fucking move. If it was up to me, the heater would be on 24/7. But it's not up to me. And I'd rather like living in a house that's not burned down. But um, yeah, like I'm going to do a case eventually, and it's about this cult that literally conducted all of any decision they made had to be like through pendulum, like using a pendulum, like what shirt was I gonna wear today, or what am I gonna eat for lunch, stuff like that. Like even the most common decisions had to be made using a pendulum. And something interesting that kind of came out, like not came out, but like popped up whenever I was like thinking about trying to do that is I'm not saying that everybody does this. I'm not even saying that people shouldn't use or trust pendulums. It's up to you spiritually. I use them personally. But whenever you use them, even if you are consciously not doing anything, sometimes your body will shift in ways to give you the answers that you want, even if you don't consciously recognize it. And that's why a lot of people lately have been using like almost third party stands, so like something they can only have to like touch bare minimum, so that way they can't accidentally like, sway it one way
They
or the
make
other.
those. They make, like, pendulums in, like, jars. I'd actually love to make one day. I think they're very cool, and I've seen them work.
Yeah, they do work. It's just
And, like, this again, this is all coming from someone who I am very spiritually inclined. Like, I have my religion, and in my religion, I converse with the gods. Like, that is something that does happen in my religion.
mhm.
But I am also a scientist. And trust me, I sit there in my car when I'm driving. Like, I was driving to get you from work the other day, and I was, like, driving in my car, and I was just sitting there, and I'm like, what if it's all fake? What if it's all fake?
Don't do that.
Like I was just sitting there and I'm like, I have to hold on to the idea that it's real because it's my religion. Like I have to believe this, but also like I'm a scientist, and so it's very conflicting. But if it is all fake, woo, if it is all fake, then it's a lot of coincidences. But at the end of the day, I'm not hurting anyone else. I'm not hurting myself. I'm putting my faith in something that allows me to be comfortable doing things that I wouldn't be comfortable doing before in order to benefit my life. I am not hurting anyone or myself in the process of doing these things. And at the end of the day, if I am safe and I am happy and it is helping me better my life just by having what I believe is a third party convince me that this is okay to do, then what the fuck does it matter? You know what I mean? And if it's real, then there is so much more to the universe that we haven't discovered yet. Both I'm fine with. And those two things can exist at the same time. You can be a scientist and religious. You don't have to do one or the other. Unless
Yeah.
you're a Christian, then fuck you. Because every single Christian scientist is like, this is all back to God. And I'm like, is it? Is
Oh,
it, sir?
speaking of Christians, you ready to hear my joke?
Oh my god, the joke. I thought you had heard this somewhere because it was so funny and I was so giggly. We were in line. We were at there's a teriyaki place near our house that we go get sometimes. It's like stupid expensive, but oh my god, it's so good.
Crab rangoons,
Oh
top
my
notch.
god. And so we were getting food and the psychost delivered this amazing line. I could not stop laughing. I had to lean against a wall to hold myself up.
Okay, so to be fair, this popped into my brain during this day. So
And you just said it. It just entered the world.
like this did pop into my head. I don't know. I don't remember ever seeing it somewhere. I could have subconsciously remembered
So funny.
remembered it and just like blurted it out. But um, did you know that most Christians are gay?
Really?
Yeah, because they end every prayer with "Amen." I remember saying that. I remember asking you the question in the teriyaki place, and you going like, "Where is this going?"
I was so confused. Like, what were you saying?
Like you're speaking words.
Like, I expected you to pull out some fun statistic or something about, like, oh yeah, most men in the Christian church actually end up being gay. Like, I thought that's where you were going. And you said that shit, and I think it just took me so off guard.
I think you were actually crying.
Oh my god, it was so funny.
Alrighty. Well,
I finally did a ghost story, assholes.
you
Now let
should,
me live. Now they're gonna be like, please never do a ghost story again.
or they're gonna be like me and do more.
They're gonna be like, oh my god, yes, someone who talks about ghost stories and the science behind them, please. I'm gonna ruin your guys' day.
Alrighty.
Anyway,
Well, I think that is.
fuck the guy who built the Titan.
Oh my god. Good night. Stay safe. Keep learning. Have a good night, guys.
Hee hee.
What?
Why not?
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.